The Grand Hotel looms ahead like a glittering fortress, a place where destinies are rewritten and family empires are secured. Inside the approaching luxury vehicle, a tense question hangs in the air, a final plea to remember a truth that could save his life. For 5 long years, they have been bound in a marriage of convenience, but tonight the stakes have escalated beyond control. The threat is real, the trap is set, and her desperate warnings seem to fall on completely deaf ears. Escaping this city with a pocket full of secret cash is his only hope of surviving the night, but time is rapidly running out. If he refuses to run and hide, the ruthless forces waiting inside will show him absolutely no mercy. Instead of planning his escape, he slips into a deep, oblivious slumber, completely unaware of the looming storm. His silent breathing only deepens her despair as she realizes she may have to face the wolves entirely alone. The heavy car door swings open as the family's loyal butler stands ready to usher her into the high society gathering. Knowing the danger awaiting her husband inside, she leaves him behind in the vehicle, hoping the shadows will keep him safe. Stepping onto the glittering red carpet, she commands the attention of every wealthy spectator and flashing camera. But beneath the superficial whispers of admiration lies a chilling certainty that a devastating family crisis is about to unfold. The whispers of the high society crowd quickly turn venomous as they spot the sleeping figure locked inside the car. To them, he is nothing but a useless fool, a pathetic husband who has brought shame to a powerful dynasty for 5 long years. But as they mock his helpless state, a sudden otherworldly pulse of energy begins to gather within his hidden jade pendant. Deep beneath his slumbering consciousness, an ancient, long-dormant power is starting to stir. Deep within the private corridors of the luxury hotel, the high society elites gather to celebrate a massive turning point. The stage is set for a ruthless betrayal, and the target is entirely unsuspecting. Raising his glass in a cynical toast, the family patriarch gloats over the sheer luck they have siphoned from their foolish son-in-law. For 5 years, they fed on his hidden fortune, but tonight, his usefulness has officially run dry. A sinister advisor steps forward, confirming that the spiritual pact that revived the family's dying fortune is nearing its absolute end. The borrowed luck has served its purpose, and now it is time to discard the vessel. The cold decree is delivered with chilling precision. Once the clock strikes the designated hour tonight, the marriage will dissolve and his fortune will completely vanish. Her father demands a swift, public humiliation to sever the ties once and for all, ignoring her pleas for a quiet exit. To her family, a simple departure is not enough. They want him utterly destroyed. The patriarch reveals his ultimate play, a powerful alliance with the city's most formidable corporate giant. Tonight, she must sever her vows to claim a throne of absolute power alongside a ruthless new suitor. The shadow of the city's most powerful heir, Ye Xiaohuang, looms large, ready to consume her family's legacy. He is a predator waiting to claim his prize, and her husband is the only obstacle left in his path. The crowd erupts in cheers as the arrogant young master walks the red carpet, basking in his unmatched wealth and influence. They whisper that he is the perfect match, a stark contrast to the pathetic husband sleeping in the shadows. His piercing gaze lands directly on the car window, spotting the sleeping target of his utter contempt. A cruel grin spreads across his face as he prepares to make an example of the man he is about to replace. Demanding a show for the arriving guests, the young master orders his subordinates to wake the sleeping fool. He wants a public spectacle, a brutal display of dominance to start the night. The guards aggressively slam against the glass, shouting insults as they try to force the slumbering husband awake. The atmosphere turns hostile, and the crowd gathers to watch the humiliation unfold. The violent shaking of the vehicle jolts his limp body, sending him crashing heavily against the interior. Yet, even as he absorbs the impact, his mind remains trapped in a deep, unnatural trance. The guards mock his pathetic, dazed state, laughing at how easily they can manipulate their target. But they fail to notice the blinding spiritual light erupting from his ancient heirloom. Believing his victory is already assured, the arrogant young master turns his back on the pathetic scene with a dismissive laugh. He thinks he has won, completely unaware of the sudden crackle of energy behind him. With a sharp, piercing sound, a fragment of the glowing green jade shatters off and streaks through the air like a lethal bullet. The glowing projectile strikes the arrogant young master with pinpoint accuracy, delivering a shocking jolt that shatters his pride. Inside the vehicle, the dazed expression completely vanishes, replaced by a gaze of cold, lethal intelligence. The 5-year slumber is over, and the true master of the soul-suppressing spell has finally awakened. Sitting tall with an aura of absolute dominance, he plays with a swirling flame of blue spiritual energy. The fool they once mocked is gone, replaced by a terrifying force who demands to know their business. The guards freeze in sheer panic, their bravado evaporating as they witness the terrifying shift in his demeanor. They scream in outrage, trying to mask the sudden, icy fear gripping their hearts. Trying to salvage his shattered dignity, the young master sneers, mocking his target's long years of silent idiocy. He refuses to believe the fool has actually changed, desperately trying to reassert his control. Leaning in close, the predator issues a final whispered threat, claiming that his marriage is dead and his wife will belong to another by the end of the night. Turning away with a confident stride, the young master dismisses the warning signs, eager to join the elite gathering inside. But behind him, a dark vow of vengeance is silently sworn. Years ago, a powerful soul-suppressing spell shattered his consciousness, splitting his mind and trapping him in a 5-year fog of helplessness after a fateful accident. For 5 long years, he endured the mockery and became the ultimate laughingstock of the city, waiting for the perfect moment to reclaim his true self. Yet, through all the abuse and betrayal, his wife was the only one who consistently defended him against her family's relentless greed. She stood as a shield against the violent shadows of her family's secret struggles, risking everything to keep him safe from harm. Now, stepping out into the cold night air, his resolve hardens with absolute certainty. She protected him when he was powerless, and now it is finally his turn to protect her. Inside the grand hall, her arrogant cousin sneers as he spots him, eager to use the family's favorite target for a cheap laugh. Dark memories of past physical abuse flash before his eyes, reminding him of the brutal beatings he quietly endured while trapped in his helpless state. Raising a glass of strong liquor, the cruel cousin demands that he perform a pathetic stunt for their amusement, promising to spare him from another beating if he complies. The silent husband approaches, his calm demeanor hiding a terrifying undercurrent of violence as he prepares to answer the challenge. The surrounding guests erupt in cruel, mocking laughter, eagerly anticipating the humiliation of the family's resident fool. In a blinding flash of motion, he lunges forward, his powerful grip clamping down on his cousin's jaw like a vice, silencing the laughter instantly. With unstoppable strength, he forces the burning liquor down his attacker's throat, slamming him onto the hard ground in a brutal display of dominance. With a devastating kick, he sends the gasping cousin flying across the polished floor, completely shattering his pride. The entire room falls into a stunned, breathless silence as the guests stare in absolute horror at the terrifying strength of the man they just mocked. Clutching his chest, the defeated cousin gasps for air, coughing up blood as his humiliation turns into a burning, murderous rage. Blinded by fury, the cousin reaches into his formal jacket, his fingers wrapping around a deadly, concealed weapon. With a wild, desperate scream, he lunges forward, aiming a lethal blade directly at his target's heart. But before the blade can even graze him, a swift iron grip intercepts the weapon, stopping the deadly strike dead in its tracks. The family butler steps in, gripping his wrist tightly and warning him that a public bloodbath will destroy the dynasty's precious reputation. Leaning close, the butler whispers a dark promise of future violence, advising him to bide his time until they can end him behind closed doors. Walking away from the study, young Master Shah mutters a quiet apology to himself, realizing he was entirely in the wrong for letting his arrogance lead him into the old man's trap. Before Chuchin can even react, the family butler suddenly approaches, his voice low and urgent as he delivers the message that the family master has personally requested Chuchin's immediate presence. Escorted to the heavy double doors of the inner sanctuary, Chuchin steps forward as they swing open, plunging him directly into the heart of the family's high-stakes council. The room is thick with tension as the cold, calculating eyes of the entire family lock onto him, with the head patriarch coldly commanding the supposed useless son-in-law to take his seat. Sitting in the middle of the high-stakes meeting, Chuchen can't help but reflect on how just 5 years ago he was forced to stand uselessly in a dark corner, a stark contrast to the bizarre, tense reverence he is receiving today. Clearing his throat, the father-in-law formally opens the meeting, dramatically declaring that while the Song family has survived solely on Chuchen's bizarre luck for the past 5 years, that era of grace is officially ending tonight. With a grim and merciless expression, the father-in-law delivers the ultimate ultimatum, stating that because Chuchen's luck will expire by midnight, Yan Yan must immediately divorce him to prevent his bad omen from dragging the family to ruin. Seizing the moment, the smug eldest son-in-law, Lin Shinping, slides a crisp divorce agreement across the polished table, demanding Chuchen sign it immediately and accept his pathetic fate. From across the table, the arrogant second son-in-law, Zoujian, sneers in cruel amusement, mocking Chuchen's intelligence and wondering aloud if the family idiot can even hold a pen to sign his own name. Staring down at the cold contract, Chuchen chuckles silently to himself, deeply amused by their predictable trashy behavior and knowing that he will have plenty of satisfying opportunities to shatter their pride later. Glancing up at Yan Yan's tense, shadowed face, Chuchen's gaze softens as he reminds himself that she is the only person in this wretched family who has shown him genuine kindness over the last 5 grueling years. The snobbish cousins burst into loud, mocking laughter, taunting Chuchen's silence as a sign of complete cognitive failure, convinced he is staring at the paper in utter confusion. Suddenly, Yan Yan slams her hands down, her voice trembling with explosive rage as she fiercely defends her husband, commanding the snobbish relatives to show some respect to a decent man. The greedy relatives merely chuckle dismissively, giving half-hearted nods of mockery while looking down on Yan Yan's desperate defense with smug superiority. Wholly unfazed by their laughter, Chuchen looks at Yan Yan with a quiet warmth, resolved that if she refuses to sign the agreement, he will never abandon her side. But if she does, he will walk away without a single regret. The tense standoff is violently shattered as a butler bursts into the room panting, frantically announcing that the powerful third young master of the legendary Shaw family from Yang City has just arrived to discuss a massive partnership. The room erupts into a flurry of panicked whispers, with the second son-in-law's heart racing as he desperately hopes the elite young master has come specifically to seek out his medical reputation. The father-in-law's face lights up with manic greed, practically leaping out of his seat as he commands the family to hurry up and not dare keep the billionaire young Master Shah waiting. Looking on in awe, Songchu asks his mother about this mysterious and legendary Shah family, only for her to explain that they are a monstrously powerful clan whose influence completely dwarfs even the almighty Yi family. Turning to Yan Yan with a saccharine, manipulative grin, the mother-in-law whispers that this is her golden ticket to greatness, urging her to play her cards right since the survival of the entire Song family now rests on her shoulders. Watching the sickening display from his seat, Chuchen's eyes narrow with deep disgust at how easily this family can dress up the act of selling their own daughter as a virtuous sacrifice. Outside the study, a sweating guard frantically assures the arriving guests that their family would never harbor a violent, low-class brute who beats people up in public, completely oblivious to what is about to happen. The heavy wooden doors are suddenly kicked open with a thunderous bang as the boisterous young master Xiaobei, strides in with an energetic laugh, announcing that he has already found exactly who he was looking for. The entire room freezes in absolute paralyzing shock, their minds completely failing to comprehend the sudden, chaotic entrance of the city's most powerful heir. Instantly breaking into a manic, sycophantic grin, the mother-in-law shrieks with excitement, ordering everyone to stand up and bow before the grand young Master Shah. The mother-in-law desperately tries to push the smug second son-in-law forward to take the credit, only for young Master Shah to coldly snap at him to step aside and get out of his face. Bypassing the snobbish elites entirely, young Master Shah's eyes lock onto Chuchen, who is sitting completely relaxed in his chair, as the young master recalls with great amusement seeing Chuchen deliver a savage beating in the lobby earlier. Striding past the stunned relatives, young Master Xiaobei enthusiastically extends his hand to Chuchen, openly declaring his deep admiration and warmly inviting the outcast to a highly private meeting tomorrow. The father-in-law and the second son-in-law stand frozen, their mouths agape in sheer horrifying disbelief as they watch the most powerful man in the city bow in respect to the family idiot. Leaning back with effortless cool, Chuchen casually accepts the handshake, a smirk on his face as he introduces himself, completely unfazed by the sudden shifting gravity. Clasping hands in a firm, powerful grip, the two men solidify their alliance, leaving the rest of the room feeling as if the ground beneath their feet has just opened up. The parents' faces pale to a ghostly white, their hearts hammering in sheer terror as the horrifying reality sinks in. The legendary figure young Master Sha desperately wanted to meet was none other than Chu Chen. Bitter resentment and absolute confusion explode within the minds of the relatives, silently screaming in rage over why a useless, brainless outcast is suddenly holding all the cards. The father-in-law breaks out into a cold, trembling sweat, realizing with sudden horror that if Chu Chen's chaotic nature offends young Master Sha tomorrow, 5 years of the family's accumulated luck will be permanently obliterated in an instant. Driven by pure, desperate panic, the father-in-law slams his hand onto the table, aggressively pointing a trembling finger at Yan Yan and screaming at her to sign the divorce paper immediately. The mother-in-law quickly chimes in with fake maternal concern, urging Yan Yan to sign the contract so the family can sever all ties with Chu Chen and avoid being implicated when he inevitably ruins everything. Surrounded by a suffocating barrage of demands and insults from her own greedy relatives, Yan Yan sits frozen, clutching the pen as the psychological pressure mounts to a breaking point. Tears of bitter frustration and shame pool in Yan Yan's eyes, dripping onto the clean paper as she silently laments how her family can so callously discard a man who has silently devoted himself to them for 5 years. Watching her from across the table, Chu Chen's expression turns solemn and calculating, quietly waiting to see if Yan Yan will finally break under the intense family pressure and betray him. A sharp, decisive swish cuts through the air as the pen is suddenly dragged across the contract, drawing a chaotic line over the signature space. With an explosive slam of anger, Yan Yan hurls the pen to the floor, her voice cracking with raw emotion as she screams that she will never throw away a disabled man who cannot survive on his own. Tears stream down her face as she pours her heart out, fiercely declaring that she utterly despises the arrogant Yi Xiaohong and refuses to be used as a pathetic political tool to buy her family's wealth. Her defiance leaves the greedy relatives utterly speechless, their faces contorted in a mix of stunned disbelief and rising fury at her unexpected rebellion. Enraged by her insubordination, the father-in-law lunges forward to strike her, but his hand freezes in midair as Chu Chen suddenly snatches the divorce decree and tears it in half with a violent rip. Tossing the shredded pieces of paper into the air like worthless confetti, Chu Chen stands tall and imposing, his eyes burning with cold authority as he demands they back off from his wife. The room erupts in furious screaming, with the relatives pointing shaking fingers at Chu Chen, outraged by the absolute disrespect of destroying a legally binding family decree. Looking down on them with ice-cold disdain, Chu Chen calmly points out that while the partnership with the Sha family is their only hope for survival, young Master Sha has explicitly made it clear that he will only deal with Chu Chen. A dangerous, low warning rumbles in Chu Chen's voice as he locks eyes with the trembling father-in-law, making it clear that if they do not show absolute respect to Yan Yan, he might accidentally say the wrong things to young Master Sha tomorrow. A lethal, victorious smirk plays on Chu Chen's lips, completely terrifying the greedy relatives as they realize the tables have turned entirely in his favor. Shaking with a mix of fear and humiliation, the father-in-law demands to know if this is an open threat. But Chu Chen calmly dismisses him, declaring that he will personally take full responsibility for tomorrow's meeting. The room is thick with tension as the name of the legendary elite, young Master Yi, ripples through the stunned crowd. Everyone's eyes dart in panic, realizing the sheer scale of the conflict brewing right before them. Out from the shadows steps the golden-haired heir himself, exuding an aura of absolute superiority as he dismisses the threat of any defiance. He confidently promises that the Song family will remain completely insulated from any fallout, his eyes gleaming with a terrifying ambition. Back inside the inner chambers, her frantic brother questions their father about the madness unfolding, desperate to know if they truly intend to throw Chu Chen directly into the jaws of the elite. To them, every move tonight is a calculated gamble with their very lives on the line. But the young master has already sealed their fate, offering Chu Chen a single day to compete for the ultimate business alliance. He mocks the family's hesitation, confident that his overwhelming influence will crush the awakened husband once and for all. Sensing a golden opportunity to eliminate Chu Chen permanently, the patriarch pulls his close advisor aside, whispering a dark order to ensure Chu Chen is quietly taken care of on his way home tonight. Unaware of the lethal trap being set in the shadows, his loyal wife stands over Chu Chen with a heavy heart, her mind racing with gratitude and fear as she realizes he actually fought back to defend her honor. Her brief moment of relief is instantly shattered when the deceptive family butler approaches, claiming it is time to escort Chu Chen home, masking his murderous intentions behind a fake smile of obedience. Meanwhile, in the vanity rooms, the high society socialites gossip maliciously about the dramatic clash, laughing at how easily Chu Chen was stopped from fighting back, completely unaware of the bloody ambush that has just been authorized. Overhearing their venomous whispers, a cold dread grips her chest as she realizes her husband is being led straight into a lethal trap. Desperate, she frantically grabs her phone, praying she can warn him before it's too late. Deep inside Chu Chen's mind, a fierce storm of spiritual energy begins to swirl, his newly awakened soul sensing the violent, approaching malice from miles away. The gears of fate are turning rapidly, and the peaceful illusion of high society is about to be torn apart by an unstoppable wave of vengeance. Far below the glittering ballroom, Butler Song walks through the dimly lit parking garage, answering his phone with a cold, deceptive calm as the frantic wife demands to know Chu Chen's whereabouts. She begs the butler to ensure Chu Chen's safety, her voice trembling with the terrifying realization that her cousin will stop at nothing to extract his brutal revenge tonight. But her warnings are useless. Deep in the dark, suffocating corridors of the garage, ruthless thugs are already waiting in the shadows, armed with heavy steel pipes and eager for blood. Hanging up the phone with a cold sneer, the butler turns to the lead thug, sealing the sinister deal with a promise of a massive favor in exchange for Chu Chen's permanent silence. The butler gloats in the darkness, thrilled that he can use someone else's hands to eliminate Chu Chen while keeping his own reputation completely clean in the eyes of the family. Clenching his heavy weapon, the vengeful cousin-in-law steps forward, his face twisted in a monstrous grin as he prepares to unleash 5 years of pent-up rage on his target. He recalls the humiliating public defeat from earlier, his blood boiling at the memory of being forced to drink the liquor, promising to make Chu Chen pay back that humiliation tenfold in pain. With a wild, murderous roar, he swings the heavy steel pipe forward, aiming to shatter Chu Chen's bones and leave him bleeding on the cold concrete. Yet Chu Chen stands perfectly still, his eyes cold and empty of fear, facing the deadly assault with the terrifying composure of a true master. Watching from the safety of the corridor, the butler shouts out a final warning to avoid the face, wanting Chu Chen alive just enough to satisfy the patriarch's twisted demands. A sudden, sickening silence falls over the garage, and when the dust clears, the butler's eyes widen in absolute horror as he beholds a sight he never thought possible. He gasps for air, his heart stopping as he looks at the bloody, broken bodies of his elite thugs scattered across the floor like discarded rags. Rolling up his sleeves with casual arrogance, Chu Chen sighs in disappointment, mocking the pathetic weakness of the assassins sent to kill him. But before the butler can even process the shock, Chu Chen turns his gaze to the exit, sensing that the real entertainment tonight is only just beginning. Out on the dimly lit streets, a new gang of arrogant elites struts forward, led by the ruthless young Master Rong of the powerful Rongshi Corporation, eager to join the hunt. They boast loudly about the impending ruin of the Song family's son-in-law, laughing at the thought of claiming Chu Chen's beautiful wife as a trophy once his doom is sealed. But their arrogant laughter is abruptly cut short as a towering shadow looms over them, radiating a suffocating, lethal pressure. Chu Chen stands before them like an ancient god of war, his voice echoing with absolute authority as he demands an immediate apology to his wife. The bewildered thugs exchange confused glances, completely failing to recognize the man they had spent years mocking as a useless fool. Suddenly, recognition hits them, and they burst into hysterical laughter, pointing fingers at the resident idiot who dared to stand in their path. With a cruel, mocking sneer, the lead thug steps directly into Chu Chen's face, whispering a vile threat about what they plan to do to his wife tonight. In a blinding fraction of a second, Chu Chan's fist explodes forward, striking the thug's face with the force of a speeding truck and shattering his jaw instantly. Blood and teeth spray into the air as the arrogant leader is sent flying backward, Chu Chan's thunderous voice demanding respect for his wife echoing through the street. The surrounding gang members freeze in utter disbelief, their minds failing to comprehend how a certified fool could possess such devastating strength. Clutching his broken face, the defeated leader grovels on the floor, his pride completely shattered as his own blood drips onto the cold pavement. A dark, murderous rage consumes the fallen heir, his eyes burning with a desperate desire to tear Chu Chen apart for this unforgivable humiliation. The onlookers watch in trembling fear, realizing that Chu Chen has just crossed a lethal line by unleashing his wrath upon the untouchable young master of the boxing gym. Refusing to accept defeat, the bloody heir lunges forward with a desperate, wild punch, putting all his weight into a strike meant to kill. His loyal subordinates cheer him on, screaming for their boss to crush the insolent fool with his professional boxing skills. But Chu Chen simply tracks the fist with a calm, bored expression, easily predicting the predictable trajectory of the desperate strike. With a swift, fluid motion, Chu Chen delivers a devastating kick to the chest, sending the attacker crashing violently back down to the ground. Stunned and gasping for breath, the defeated leader groans in agony, realizing his professional skills are absolutely nothing compared to Chu Chen's otherworldly power. Blinded by humiliation, the desperate heir screams at his remaining men to get up and tear Chu Chen limb from limb, refusing to let the night end in his utter defeat. With weapons drawn, the entire gang charges at Chu Chen at once, determined to overwhelm him through sheer numbers. Meanwhile, back in the dim garage, the butler frantically tries to revive his unconscious thugs, completely baffled by the unexplained carnage. Coughing up blood, the battered cousin-in-law slowly regains consciousness, whispering Chu Chen's name with a mixture of terror and disbelief. He desperately tries to piece together the chaotic memory of the fight, recalling how they were clearly winning before everything suddenly spun out of control. He realizes with absolute horror that Chu Chen used an ancient mystical swap technique, turning their own attacks against one another in a brilliant display of strategy. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream echoes from the distance, leaving the butler and the cousin frozen in sheer terror as they realize Chu Chen's wrath is heading straight for them next. The dust settles to reveal a scene of sheer absurdity. Young Master Wrong lies battered and bleeding on the cold floor, screaming in agony at his own elite guards, utterly bewildered as to why his own men turn their weapons on him. The guards freeze in absolute horror, staring at their trembling hands as the chilling realization sinks in. They were aiming directly for Chu Chen, yet somehow their strikes landed squarely on their own master. Before anyone can move, Chu Chen steps forward, his foot descending with crushing weight. He calmly warns them that any further resistance will only result in more broken ribs. Clutching his chest, Wrong struggles to breathe, weakly spitting out threats about his family's formidable power, but Chu Chen's gaze remains ice cold as he demands an immediate apology to his wife. The young heir's mind races in desperate panic. He is in the heart of elite territory, surrounded by his allies, yet he has been effortlessly brought to his knees by a man everyone dismissed as a fool. Looking up, he is met with an aura of pure terror. Chu Chen towers over him like a monstrous shadow, radiating a lethal, suffocating pressure that demands absolute obedience. Strangled by fear and coughing up blood, the arrogant young master's pride completely shatters, and he desperately screams out a tearful, humiliating apology. The stunned onlookers watch in breathless silence, their minds reeling from the sheer impossibility of the scene, while Chu Chen merely smiles with dark satisfaction. With casual arrogance, Chu Chen walks away, mocking the fallen heir's sudden obedience as the trembling crowd parts to let him pass. Nearby, the event director breaks into a cold sweat, his heart hammering against his ribs as he realizes the catastrophic fallout of this public disaster. Suddenly, the patriarch of the Song family storms into the hall, his face contorted in a furious rage as he demands to know why the useless son-in-law is still causing trouble instead of leaving. Stepping up from behind, young Master Yi places a heavy, mocking hand on the director's shoulder, demanding a full explanation of the chaos unfolding in his domain. Trembling under the elite's intense gaze, the director frantically explains that Chu Chen inexplicably lashed out and brutally beat the heir of the powerful Rongxi Corporation. The news ripples through the room, leaving the gathered elites in merger disbelief. Nobody can comprehend how a certified idiot could possibly overpower a professional boxer. Young Master Yi's eyes narrow as he calculates the tactical implications of this sudden shift, wondering if some hidden, powerful faction is secretly protecting Chu Chen. Turning slowly toward the Song patriarch, Yi delivers a chilling warning, mocking the family's inability to control their loose cannon of a son-in-law. He reminds the trembling patriarch that their family's entire financial future hinges on a massive trilateral business alliance, one that requires absolute stability. The patriarch's face drains of color as the final piece of the trap falls into place. The third, indispensable pillar of that alliance is none other than the Rong Group itself. Leaning in close, Yi whispers venomous words, leaving no room for doubt that the Rong Group will pull out of the deal immediately, leaving the Song family in complete ruin. Panic consumes the patriarch as he realizes Chu Chen's reckless actions have just doomed their entire dynasty, turning a minor embarrassment into absolute financial slaughter. Desperate to salvage the alliance, the patriarch swallows his pride and bows deeply to the bloody young Master Rong, frantically offering any compensation to appease his wrath. But Rong spits back in absolute fury, refusing to accept any apology from the family that harbored the man who humiliated him so brutally. Supported by his guards, the broken heir is carried away, screaming a bloodthirsty vow of vengeance that promises Chu Chen will not survive the night. He swears on his very name that Chu Chen will be crippled and broken, while Chu Chen merely watches him go with an amused, mocking smirk. Watching the tense exchange, Yan Yan is gripped by a cold, protective dread, while young Master Yi quietly rejoices, realizing he won't even have to lift a finger to destroy his rival. Playing the role of the benevolent peacekeeper, Yi magnanimously calls for calm, urging the patriarch to handle this domestic crisis quietly before the alliance is permanently severed. Seizing the excuse, the furious patriarch abruptly declares the party over, ushering the family toward the exit while coldly announcing there is no room for Chu Chen in the vehicles. In a final act of cruel abandonment, he orders Chu Chen to find his own way home through the dark streets, leaving Yan Yan utterly horrified by her father's blatant death sentence. She steps forward in a panic, pleading with her father to stop, knowing that leaving Chu Chen alone in the open tonight is no different than handing him over to his executioners. But the patriarch barks back with absolute coldness, claiming he is merely giving the useless husband one final night to prove he is worthy of staying in the family. With a sinister, mocking smile, the patriarch challenges Chu Chen to survive the night, promising that if he returns alive, he will personally throw a celebration in his honor. Sensing a spectacular bloodbath on the horizon, the vengeful cousin claps his hands in sadistic delight, eagerly anticipating Chu Chen's brutal demise. Young Master Yi seals the trap with a charming smile, promising to visit the Song household tomorrow to finalize the alliance, confident that Chu Chen will be nothing but a memory by morning. One by one, the arrogant family members sneer at Chu Chen as they walk away, mocking him for his stupidity and bidding him a final, permanent farewell. They laugh cruelly, suggesting he prepare his own funeral rites, leaving Yan Yan standing in the shadows with her heart breaking as the family car pulls away. But her resolve suddenly hardens. Refusing to let him face the slaughter alone, Yan Yan spins around and desperately runs back, grabbing Chu Chen's arm. Her eyes burn with fierce determination as she declares that she will never abandon her husband, vowing to stand by his side no matter how powerful his enemies are. The patriarch yells in outraged disbelief at her defiance, but young Master Yi merely watches with a dark, sinister grin, thrilled to see the prey struggle so desperately. To Ye, the impending slaughter is nothing more than a thrilling game, and he finds absolute joy in watching his targets desperately fight against their inevitable doom. Moments later, a solitary car speeds down a pitch-black, forest-lined highway, slicing through the heavy, oppressive silence of the night. Behind the wheel, Yan Yan's brother, Song Chu, drives with tense fury, admitting he only agreed to help to protect his sister from the impending storm. In the back seat, Chu Chen remains completely unbothered, casually explaining that he only struck young Master Rong because the arrogant elite dared to speak filth about his wife. Q scoffs and cracks his knuckles in frustration, reminding Chu Chen that in the brutal real world, empty bravado is worthless without the raw, overwhelming power to back it up. Yan Yan gently touches Chuchen's shoulder, pleading with him to stay quiet and endure just a little longer, promising she will smuggle him safely out of the city tonight. The quiet of the forest road is shattered when glaring headlights suddenly appear in the rearview mirror, tailing them with terrifying speed. Before they can react, a deafening crash echoes through the trees as a pursuing vehicle rams them violently from behind, nearly sending them spinning off the road. Panic erupts inside the cabin as Chu struggles to maintain control of the swerving vehicle, realizing the assassins have already caught up to them. Yan Yan screams at her brother to step on the gas and break through the blockade, but Chuchen calmly interjects, demanding to be let out of the car immediately. His eyes hold an intense, resolute calm as he explains that as long as he remains inside, the hunters will stop at nothing to destroy all of them. Refusing to listen, Yan Yan shrieks in terror as Q slams on the brakes, the tires screaming against the asphalt as the deadly trap closes in around them. Stepping out of the vehicle, Chu Chen delivers a parting warning to his brother-in-law, telling him to guard his sister and make sure these thugs pay for every single scratch on the car. Before Yan Yan can scream for him to get back inside, Chu Chen slams the door, stepping directly into the path of the oncoming storm. Deep in the shadows of the forest road, headlights cut through the dark as several roaring vehicles begin to surround the area, ready to hunt down their target. The trap is officially sprung, and there is nowhere left for Chu Chen to run as the executioners prepare to strike. Armed with heavy weapons, the bloodthirsty mercenaries emerge from their vehicles, looking around in confusion as they realize Chu Chen has seemingly vanished into the dark woods. Furious at his sudden disappearance, they bark orders to fan out and hunt down the coward before he can escape. Leading the hunt, a heavily bandaged thug grins with absolute malice, raising his heavy club as he vows to personally crush Chu Chen's bones. In the background, young Master Yi watches with a sinister smile, eager to witness the brutal end of his rival. Locked inside the swerving car, Yan Yan watches in absolute horror as the armed killers storm into the trees, realizing with a sinking heart that they are hunting her husband. Fear paralyzes her as she realizes Chu Chen's selfless distraction has made him the ultimate target. Desperate to save him, Yan Yan begs her brother to unlock the doors so she can negotiate a truce with the ruthless Ye Xiaohuang. But Chu grips the wheel in panic, refusing to let her go, desperately claiming that his only duty tonight is to protect her. Turning on her brother with fierce, blazing determination, Yan Yan delivers a chilling ultimatum, promising to disown him forever if Chu Chen dies tonight. Stunned by his sister's ferocious resolve, Q hesitates, the weight of her words striking him like a physical blow. Slipping out of the vehicle, Yan Yan charges headfirst into the pitch-black forest, leaving her trembling brother standing in the shadows. She refuses to let Chu Chen face the executioners alone, even if it means walking directly into her own doom. Emerging into a clearing, Yan Yan stands face-to-face with the menacing figures of Ye Xiaohuang and his lead mercenary, demanding to know what it will take to spare her husband's life. The oppressive silence of the forest only amplifies her desperate cries for mercy. The bandaged brute chuckles darkly, stepping forward as he casually suggests that they don't need Chu Chen alive at all, since a dead man's fingerprints can still sign a divorce decree. The twisted horror of his words leaves Yan Yan trembling in pure disgust. Grinning like a demon, the thug lays out a sickening bargain, promising to spare Chu Chen's life only if Yan Yan agrees to marry Ye Xiaohuang tonight. If she refuses, Chu Chen will be beaten to death, and his corpse will be forced to sign her freedom away. Her voice trembling with fury, Yan Yan fiercely rejects the illegal demands, calling out their shameless, underhanded tactics as nothing more than extortion. But her defiance only fuels the boiling rage of the elite standing before her. Losing his remaining patience, Ye Xiaohuang lunges forward and violently grabs Yan Yan, screaming at her to shut up and accept her fate. He fumes with rage, claiming he had given her family far too many chances, and he will not be rejected again. Leaning in close, Yi whispers a sickening vow, promising to take her by force tonight, while ensuring Chu Chen never leaves this forest alive. The sheer malice in his voice leaves Yan Yan frozen in absolute suffocating dread. Hiding nearby behind a massive tree, Song Chu watches the violent confrontation, his heart hammering against his ribs in utter helplessness. He desperately wants to protect his sister, but the overwhelming terror of the elite families keeps him rooted to the spot. Trembling from head to toe, Kyo despises his own cowardice, his knees buckling under the weight of his fear as he fails to find the strength to stand. He knows his sister is in grave danger, yet his body refuses to move a single inch. Suddenly, Chu Chen's calm voice breaks the silence from right behind him, casually mocking his brother-in-law for being a useless spectator. Startled and pale, Q spins around in utter disbelief, unable to comprehend how Chu Chen is still alive. Clutching his shaking legs, Q frantically tries to justify his paralysis, claiming that confronting Yi Xiaohuang means instant ruin for the entire Song dynasty. To him, the raw power of the elites is an invisible wall that simply cannot be scaled. With a cold, dismissive chuckle, Chu Chen walks past him, flatly calling him a piece of trash before heading straight toward the clearing. Terrified, Q screams at him to stop, convinced Chu Chen is walking straight to his death. Without looking back, Chu Chen delivers one final heavy lesson, telling the young man to watch closely and remember what it actually means to be a protector. The absolute calm in his voice sends a strange shiver down Chu's spine. Cracking his knuckles, Chu Chen steps out from the shadows, his eyes locking onto the enemies holding his wife. His focus narrows entirely onto the threat, his aura shifting from a quiet husband to a lethal predator preparing to strike. In this tense fraction of a second, a fleeting dream of peace flashes through his mind. The quiet, normal life he wishes to build with Yanyan, far away from the bloodthirsty schemes of the elites. It is a future he is prepared to kill to protect. Clenching his fist with crushing force, Chu Chen vows that when someone dares to harm the person you love, you do not hide in fear. You stand up and destroy them, regardless of how powerful they claim to be. The bandaged mercenary spots Chu Chen and bursts into a mocking laugh, raising his heavy steel bat and swinging it downward with lethal, crushing force. He screams a bloodthirsty threat, confident that this single strike will end the fool once and for all. But Chu Chen doesn't even flinch, his eyes remaining ice-cold as he prepares his counterstrike, his fist surging with a silent, terrifying power that defies all logic. Yanyan screams in sheer terror, closing her eyes as she bracingly anticipates the sound of Chu Chen's skull shattering under the mercenary's brutal assault. A deafening crack echoes through the trees as Chu Chen's fist connects with explosive, blinding force, shattering the mercenary's weapon and striking him squarely in the jaw. The onlookers freeze in breathless shock, their jaws dropping in absolute disbelief as they witness a mere human unleash such monstrous, physics-defying destruction. The giant mercenary's eyes roll back, and he collapses heavily to the cold forest floor, completely unconscious before his body even hits the dirt. Standing over the fallen brute, Chu Chen slowly turns his lethal gaze toward a trembling Ye Xiaohuang, calmly announcing that his turn has finally arrived. Ye Xiaohuang bursts into a manic, hysterical laugh, desperately trying to mask his growing panic by screaming that Chu Chen is completely insane for crossing him. He frantically boasts of his family's supreme influence, threatening that the Rong and Ye families will unleash an unstoppable tide of vengeance that will grind Chu Chen and the Songs into dust. Pointing a trembling finger, Yi demands that Chu Chen kneel down immediately and beg for mercy, promising that a humiliating divorce is the only way he will survive the night. Before another word can leave his arrogant mouth, Chu Chen's fist smashes directly into Ye Xiaohuang's face with a sickening thud, cutting off his threats in an instant. Sent flying through the air, Yi Xiaohuang spits blood as he crashes violently into the dirt, Chu Chen's voice echoing coldly that trash should learn to stay quiet. Walking over to a nearby heavy plastic trash bin, Chu Chen grips the edge with a dark, satisfied smirk, deciding to show the arrogant heir exactly where he belongs. Scrambling backward in absolute terror, Yi Xiaohuang shrieks, begging Chu Chen to stop as he desperately tries to claw his way away from the impending humiliation. With ruthless force, Chu Chen slams the massive green trash bin directly over Yi Xiaohuang, silencing his pathetic whimpers with a resounding crash. Trapped inside the dark, filthy container, the proud heir's mind spins into darkness, his consciousness fading as the reality of his total defeat sinks in. The bin tips over, leaving the elite master head first in the trash, a scene of sheer, ridiculous humiliation that completely shatters his fearsome reputation. Placing a heavy boot on top of the bin, Chu Chen looks down at his trapped prey, his eyes scanning the area as he casually asks where the prize is hidden. To Yan Yan's utter bewilderment, Chu Chen begins casually searching the unconscious heir's pockets, completely unbothered by the gravity of the assault he just committed. Rushing over, Yan Yan frantically scolds him, demanding to know why he ignored her warnings and fought these powerful elites, terrified that they are now doomed. With a bright, innocent smile, Chu Chen holds up a massive stack of cash, cheekily claiming that he didn't fight anyone at all tonight. He explains with casual arrogance that it was a completely one-sided beating, and he was simply collecting the car repair money he promised to retrieve. Yan stands completely frozen, staring at her husband as if looking at a stranger, utterly stunned by this wild, powerful, and utterly bizarre side of him. Realizing they need to flee before reinforcements arrive, Yan grabs his hand and drags him toward the car, while Chu-Chen loudly reminds her that her brother is still hiding in the bushes. Peeking out from the foliage, a sheepish Song Q waves frantically, scrambling to catch up as he realizes his brother-in-law is a force of nature. With their tires squealing against the asphalt, the car speeds away into the night, leaving the unconscious elites rotting in the dirt behind them. As the vehicle races down the dark highway, Yan urges Chu-Chen to get out of the city as fast as possible, knowing the true storm is only just beginning. Back inside the car, Yan watches in disbelief as Chu-Chen casually counts his newly acquired cash, desperately pleading with him to hide his terrifying strength and act like a normal person, so no one discovers his true power. With his hands holding a massive stack of bills, Chu-Chen remains completely unbothered by her warnings, casually suggesting they simply go home as if they didn't just leave a trail of broken bones behind them. Chu drives in a violent panic, screaming that the Song family cannot possibly protect Chu-Chen now, while Chu-Chen remains entirely relaxed, calmly pointing out that their enemies would never publicize getting beaten by an idiot. Pointing a smug finger, Chu-Chen proudly declares that the proud elites will keep this humiliating defeat a secret for the rest of their lives, adding with a grin that Yan's father gave him one more day anyway. Looking at Yan's anxious face in the rearview mirror, Q keeps driving, realizing that even if they force Chu-Chen out of the city, his stubborn brother-in-law will simply walk right back to face his fate. Sitting in the backseat, Chu-Chen casually relaxes with his hands behind his head, leaving Yan and Chu completely dumbfounded by his bizarre, unbothered logic. Gritting his teeth, Chu finally accepts the reality, steering the car back toward their home as the looming threat of the morning draws closer. Yan clutches her chest, still terrified of what lies ahead, while Chiyu tries to reassure her, though the dread in his own heart remains palpable. Looking into the rearview mirror, Q's gaze hardens with a newfound sense of duty, silently swearing that from this moment on, he will stand up and protect his brother-in-law. In the back seat, Chu-Chen lets out a soft chuckle, teasingly asking if he actually needs any protection from a coward who was just shaking in the bushes. Accelerating down the highway, the car speeds closer to the Song family estate, the dark clouds of an impending storm gathering overhead. The vehicle finally pulls into the grand gates of the Song family mansion, completely unaware of the furious chaos unfolding inside. Inside the main hall, Yan's father paces in a violent panic, yelling at his family that the uncle has already gone to the grandfather to report Chu-Chen's chaotic behavior at the party. Clutching his head in sheer agony, the father despairs over their 5-year struggle to survive, terrified that his father-in-law will strip him of his homeowner title tonight. The sisters, Song Ching and Song Yoon, gasp in absolute horror, realizing that if the second uncle takes power, their entire branch of the family will be ruthlessly repressed and ruined. His face contorted with desperation, the father explains that their only hope is to sacrifice Chu-Chen, just as Ye Xiaohuang suggested, to appease the furious Rong family. The sisters nod in cold agreement, heartlessly declaring that Chu-Chen's brutal execution is a small price to pay if it saves their own social status and wealth. Suddenly, the sharp, demanding ring of a phone cuts through the suffocating tension in the room, making everyone freeze in anticipation. Snatching up his phone, the father answers, demanding to know if his son, Q, has finally returned home with his sister. But as the voice on the other end delivers the news of the night's events, the father's face drains of all color, his eyes widening in pure, unadulterated shock. The phone slips from his trembling hand and crashes to the floor as Song Yoon watches in terror, desperately asking what could have possibly gone wrong. Outside, the headlights of Chu's car pierce the darkness, the father staring blankly out the window as the realization of their doom sets in. Stepping out of the vehicle, Chu-Chen looks completely unbothered, while Yan follows closely behind, braced for the inevitable family explosion. Inside the mansion, the family screams in absolute disbelief, unable to comprehend how Chu-Chen could have returned alive and unscathed. Outside, Q stands shivering in the cold night air, a sudden icy realization hitting him as he remembers his father's previous arrogant boast. He vividly recalls his father sneering that if Chuchen somehow survived the night, he would personally throw a grand celebration to welcome him back. Realizing that Chuchen forced him to call his father in advance just to hold him to that humiliating promise, Q clutches his head, screaming in sheer panic that he is completely doomed. Inside, the mother confronts Yan Yan the second she steps through the door, screaming in absolute horror about the rumor that they beat up young Master Ye. Wiping away frantic tears, the mother wails that this disaster will force the Yi family to pull out of their crucial business cooperation, stripping them of everything they own. Driven to madness by fear, the mother storms off to draft a fresh divorce agreement, demanding that Yan Yan sign it tomorrow to throw Chuchen to the wolves. Suddenly, Chuchen pokes his head through the doorway with a bright, carefree grin, casually telling his wife not to stress over such minor corporate threats. Standing confidently, Chuchen smugly promises that tomorrow he will personally secure an even greater partnership with the powerful Sha family, rendering the Yi and Rong families completely irrelevant. Staring at him, Yan Yan's heart skips a beat as she studies his sharp gaze, wondering if the mindless husband she knew for 5 years has finally recovered his sanity. With a gentle smile, Chuchen confirms her suspicions, admitting that his 5-year mental fog has finally lifted, prompting Yan Yan to eagerly ask if he remembers his original family. Chuchen's expression turns pensive as he scratches his chin, admitting that after 5 long years of amnesia, his memories of his past are still somewhat fragmented and lost. Yan Yan gently squeezes his arm, advising him to take his time, secretly hoping that finding his family will ensure he has people to protect and care for him in the future. Suddenly, Chuchen's eyes light up as a spark of recognition flashes in his mind, loudly announcing that he finally remembers his true origin. Standing tall with heroic pride, Chuchen boastfully declares that he belongs to the legendary Chu family, the undisputed #1 clan in the entire country, guarded by 9 formidable masters. Striking a ridiculous, exaggerated pose, Chuchen proudly boasts of his masters teaching him mystical arts, leaving Yan Yan to facepalm in utter despair, convinced his brain has actually gotten worse. Giving up on his wild delusions, Yan Yan sighs, gently asking him how he truly felt living as a helpless, mocked outcast in her family for the last 5 years. Anticipating a confession of deep pain and humiliation, Yan Yan is stunned when Chuchen smugly points a finger at her, teasingly claiming she was a great cabbage that a pig guarded for 5 years without ever taking a bite. Her face flushing crimson with explosive embarrassment, Yan Yan screams in fury, snatching a nearby pillow and violently hurling it at his laughing face. Dodging the projectile, Chuchen escapes the room with a playful laugh, leaving a highly flustered Yan Yan fuming in his wake, utterly charmed and exasperated by his teasing. The next morning, under the bright sun, Song Chu practices his martial arts atop towering wooden poles, desperately trying to master the traditional lion dance. Clad in a bizarre, cute fruit hoodie, Chuchen stands below casually brushing his teeth, lazily questioning why his brother-in-law is playing around with a lion head after yesterday's disaster. Leaping gracefully between the wooden pillars, Q calls back that he is performing the strenuous training to save their family from impending ruin. Holding the lion head high, Q explains that the massive Gold Beach City grand opening is happening in 5 days, featuring a highly prestigious lion dance competition. Spitting out his toothpaste, Chuchen watches with a skeptical, highly amused expression, mocking the absurd idea that a silly dance could solve a massive, high-stakes family crisis. High above the city's power struggles sits the terrifying, absolute ruler of Zen City, Old Master Huang, a ruthless tycoon who commands immense power and possesses a deep, obsessive love for the lion dance. Leaping down, Q eagerly explains that winning this competition is their golden ticket, as impressing the domineering Old Master Huang will instantly elevate their family and crush all their enemies once and for all. Standing high above the ground, Song Q gazes down with a heavy heart, realizing his endless martial arts practice has brought him no closer to mastering the precision needed to win the prestigious lion dance competition. Below him, Chuchen casually brushes his teeth, completely unfazed by the despair in the air, playfully asking who could possibly be giving up so easily over a mere game. Without warning, Chuchen spits a powerful, high-velocity stream of water that tears through the air like a bullet, violently striking the wooden pillar and shattering Song Chu's balance. Clinging to the pole in sheer terror, Song Chu screams in absolute disbelief, wondering if his bizarre brother-in-law was some sort of biological weapon in his past life. Wiping his mouth with a smirk, Chu-Chen casually replies that he's just a doting husband who wants to win the competition solely because his wife's happiness is worth any effort. Meanwhile, at the main mansion, the family prepares a lavish red carpet welcome, with the father demanding everyone look their absolute best to appease the powerful young Master Yi. The urgent preparations grind to a sudden halt as the father turns around, gasping in horror as a casual and completely underdressed figure approaches. Stepping into the grand courtyard dressed in basic shorts and a plaid shirt, Yan Yan looks completely unimpressed, asking why they dragged her out of bed for this. The parents erupt in furious outrage, accusing Yan Yan of deliberately sabotaging their survival when they explicitly warned her that young Master Yi was coming to claim her. Before the parents can drag her away to change, a shadow falls over them as a confident voice interjects, coolly declaring that there is absolutely no need for a formal dress today. Standing before them in bright floral beachwear and flip-flops, Chu-Chen calmly announces that the almighty Yi Xiaohuang won't be showing his face today, and that young Master Sha is the one who will arrive. The father clutches his head in a blind rage, screaming at Chu-Chen's ridiculous, disrespectful beach attire and desperately warning him that young Master Yi will murder them all if he sees this. Wholly unbothered, Chu-Chen chuckles behind his sunglasses, explaining that young Master Sha is a simple, easygoing man who hates formal nonsense and actually likes him for beating up their enemies. The snobbish cousin steps forward, sneering at Chu-Chen to shut his mouth, arrogantly boasting that young Master Ye's word is absolute law in the business world and that his arrival is guaranteed. The family smugly brandishes a fresh divorce agreement, demanding Chu-Chen sign it immediately, but Yan Yan fiercely steps in, reminding them that Chu-Chen just saved her brother's life and refusing to play along with their sick game. The snobby sisters mock Yan Yan's loyalty as naive, while Chu-Chen quietly laughs to himself, knowing that the cowardly Yi Xiaohuang is currently too broken to ever show his face. Suddenly, a breathless guard sprints into the courtyard, screaming at the top of his lungs that young Master Yi's ultra-luxury car has just pulled through the gates. Parents instantly light up with ecstatic joy, convinced that the wealthy Ye family is still on their side and that their path to salvation has finally arrived. Turning to Chu-Chen with smug, mocking grins, the family prepares to watch him get humiliated, completely unaware of the trap Chu-Chen has already laid for them. Pushing past the crowd, the father desperately sprints toward the driveway, eager to bow before the powerful young master and beg for his favor. The car door swings open, but instead of the arrogant Yi Xiaohuang, a casual young Master Sha steps out holding a giant watermelon, loudly mocking the entire family for dressing up like cheap clowns. The Song family freezes in absolute mind-numbing shock, their eyes nearly popping out of their skulls as they try to comprehend why their savior's rival is stepping out of the vehicle. Laughing hysterically, young Master Sha reveals that Ye Xiaohuang's face was beaten so badly it swelled up like a pig, forcing him to hide at home and send his own luxury car to give Sha a ride. With a quiet, victorious smirk, Chu-Chen looks over at his dumbfounded in-laws, reminding them that his predictions are never, ever wrong. Before the family can recover, a butler rushes forward with a ringing phone, frantically announcing that the mysterious and legendary Old Master Song has just called from the old mansion. The realization sends a chill down everyone's spine, as the elusive Old Master is the true, absolute powerhouse who controls the entire Song family from the shadows. Sensing a golden opportunity to secure his wife's future, Chu-Chen's eyes narrow with determination, realizing he must play his cards perfectly to seal a legendary deal with the Sha family. Turning away from the useless relatives, young Master Sha warmly invites Chu-Chen to lead the way to the inner sanctuary, leaving the stunned family seething in silent fury. Terrified that Chu-Chen's chaotic nature will offend the wealthy guest, the relatives try to block him, but the father holds them back with a grim, desperate expression. Staring blankly at the empty driveway, the father finally accepts the harsh reality that their alliance with the Yi family is permanently dead, and their only hope for survival rests entirely on Chu-Chen. Placing a heavy, trembling hand on his relative's shoulder, the father swallows his pride, praying to the heavens that Chu-Chen can somehow pull off a miracle and secure the Sha partnership. But as they watch the two walk away, the greedy relatives can only curse in bitter jealousy, unable to believe that the family idiot has suddenly become their savior. Inside the grand halls of the old mansion, the power-playing old master Song Chong-ching warmly greets young master Xiao, admitting he was desperately looking for a legendary calligraphy master. Walking into the study, young master Xia is presented with a pristine scroll, as the old master asks him to evaluate a piece of writing meant to impress the city's ruler. Boasting of his own supposed mastery, Xia confidently studies the bold brushstrokes on the paper, praising them as powerful and full of auspicious blessings. The old master's face drops into a solemn expression, leaving Xia suddenly sweating as he senses a hidden trap in the old man's polite tone. With a sudden, violent rip, the old master tears the precious scroll in half, coldly declaring the work completely unworthy of being presented to the ruthless tycoon. The old patriarch explains that the terrifying tycoon who commands the entire city is frantically collecting the finest calligraphy, and only a truly flawless masterpiece will save the Song family from ruin. Realizing he has walked straight into a trap, Xia panics internally, sweating profusely as he recognizes his own amateur skills are nowhere near the level required. With a calculating gleam in his eyes, the cunning old master locks his gaze onto Xia, pressing him to deliver a legendary piece of his own famous writing. Before Xia can refuse, the powerful patriarch suddenly drops to his knees with a loud thud, begging the young master for a piece of his legendary writing to save his family. Horrified by the dramatic display, Xiao desperately tries to pull the weeping elder off the floor, but the stubborn old man refuses to budge, threatening to stay down forever. Completely overwhelmed by the elder's dramatic emotional blackmail, Xiao reluctantly gives in and agrees to write the piece, regretting ever boasting about his skills. Instantly, the crying old man leaps back to his feet with a triumphant thumbs up, leaving Xiao utterly speechless at how easily he was tricked by the old fox. Shaken and exhausted, Xiao tells the old patriarch to wait outside, requesting that Chu Chen step in so they can discuss the writing in private. Stepping out of the study with a victorious grin, the old master tells Chu Chen to enter, while the outer family watches in absolute breathless anticipation. The relatives gasp in absolute disbelief, unable to comprehend what incredible, supernatural luck could possibly allow an outcast like Chu Chen to be personally summoned by the city's elite. Creaking open the heavy wooden doors, Chu Chen steps into the quiet study, ready to face whatever test lies ahead. Sweating buckets, Xiao frantically grabs a giant brush and pleads with Chu Chen to help him write the masterwork, admitting his own bragging has landed him in deep trouble. Smirking at his friend's desperate panic, Chu Chen steps forward to examine the brush, ready to unleash a hidden, legendary talent that will change the fate of the Song family forever. With a sudden heavy thud, young master Xiao Xiaobei slams his attempt at calligraphy onto the desk, hoping to present a majestic birthday greeting for the upcoming banquet. Grinning with unearned confidence, Chaibei demands to know if his messy strokes can be considered a masterpiece, entirely oblivious to how amateurish his work actually is. Seeing an easy opportunity to build an alliance, Chu Chen offers to write the birthday scroll instead, suggesting the young master can easily claim the credit as his own. Startled by the audacious offer, Xiaobei proudly reveals that he studied under a legendary calligraphy immortal, challenging the quiet son-in-law's hidden credentials. Amused by Chu Chen's bold claim, Xiaobei enthusiastically accepts the gamble, boasting that while his business skills are lacking, his ability to judge a man's true character is absolute. Deep down, Xiaobei knows Chu Chen is no ordinary fool, but rather a dormant tiger biding his time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. With a burst of explosive energy, Chu Chen sweeps the brush across the paper, his hands moving like a storm as an invisible aura of mastery fills the room. Resting his brush with effortless grace, Chu Chen quietly announces that his work is complete, inviting a highly skeptical Xiaobei to judge the results. The paper is revealed with a sudden, dramatic flourish, but the bizarre characters written upon it look completely chaotic to the untrained eye. Xiaobei's eyes widen in sheer, comical horror as he stares at the incomprehensible scribbles, his mind completely failing to decipher a single word. A wave of existential dread washes over Xiaobei as he realizes he trusted a self-proclaimed genius, silently screaming in panic over how his own subpar calligraphy was actually superior. The tense silence is shattered by a sudden, heavy knocking on the study door, with the elderly grandfather of the Song family eagerly demanding to see the finished masterpiece. The cold sweat drips down Xiaobei's face as panic sets in. If the Song family patriarch sees Chu Qin's chaotic scribbles, the billionaire heir will be completely humiliated. Before Xiaobei can hide the evidence, Chu Chen casually invites the old man inside, sending a jolt of pure terror straight through the young master's heart. The grandfather strides in with a wide, sycophantic grin, desperate to flatter the powerful young master, while Xiaobei frantically tries to conceal Chu Chen's scroll behind his back. Scrambling to protect his fragile reputation, Xiaobei resolves to hide Chu Chen's bizarre writing and present his own heavily flawed attempt instead. But Chu Chen is one step ahead, effortlessly snatching the correct scroll and presenting it directly to the grandfather with a calm, mischievous smile. Xiaobei clutches his head in absolute screaming despair, convinced that his social standing in the city is permanently destroyed by Chu Chen's betrayal. The grandfather stares at the scroll, his mouth falling open as his voice trembles with sudden, overwhelming shock. Tears of pure ecstasy and awe stream down the old patriarch's face as he declares the work to be a flawless masterpiece, far surpassing any modern calligrapher. Watching the old man weep in reverence, a bewildered Xiaobei can only stare in mute shock, utterly incapable of seeing any beauty in Chu Chen's wild strokes. Ignorant of Xiaobei's confusion, the grandfather passionately unravels the scroll further, completely captivated by the divine artistry. He explains that the scroll is written in an exceedingly rare ancient grass script, a style so elite and complex that only a true, unmatched master could ever compose it. Realizing he was the true illiterate all along, Xiaobei's jaw drops, while Chu Chen maintains a smug, knowing silence. Seizing the moment to save face, Xiaobei proudly takes full credit for the masterpiece, boasting that it was merely a casual display of his basic skills. But the grandfather immediately throws a wrench into the plan, eagerly presenting a brush and demanding the young master sign the scroll on the spot. Caught in his own lie, a sweating Xiaobei quickly deflects the pressure, claiming he wants to magnanimously gift the masterpiece to Chu Chen instead. Though the grandfather is deeply baffled by this bizarre generosity, Chu Chen steps forward with absolute confidence, ready to put brush to paper. As Chu Chen prepares to write, the old man sighs in disappointment, silently comparing the useless son-in-law to the brilliant, elegant young master. But before anyone can process the moment, Chu Chen casually shifts the conversation, demanding they finally discuss the massive business cooperation. To the grandfather's absolute horror, Xiaobei coldly demands that the old man step out, declaring that he will only discuss the multi-million-dollar alliance with Chu Chen in private. Flushing a deep burning red from sheer embarrassment, the grandfather is forced to retreat, realizing his presence means absolutely nothing to the city's most powerful heir. Outside the study, the anxious relatives corner the patriarch, their hearts sinking as he reveals the devastating news that the negotiation is completely out of their hands. Yet, a glimmer of desperate hope remains, as the grandfather admits that Chu Chen's mysterious sway over young Master Xia is their only ticket to securing the legendary Huang family's favor. Shock and outrage explode through the greedy relatives, their faces contorting in disbelief at the realization that their useless outcast now holds the entire family's fate. Behind closed doors, Xiaobei drops his friendly facade, warning Chu Chen that while he saved his face earlier, he will not hand over the massive contract so easily. Chu Chen remains completely unfazed, his cool, calculating gaze locking on to the powerful young master as the high-stakes game officially begins. Xiaobei reveals a lethal card. He already has a deal nearly finalized with the powerful Ye Xiaohuang, Chu Chen's arch-rival. Pointing directly to a ticking clock, Xiaobei delivers a brutal ultimatum, giving Chu Chen only a few fleeting minutes to prove his worth before the automated deal with the Ye family goes live. Leaning in with a dangerous smile, the young billionaire promises to dump the Yi family entirely, but only if Chu Chen can answer his highly unconventional questions. Outside the door, the anxious second son-in-law paces frantically, utterly terrified that Chu Chen will ruin this golden opportunity for the entire Song clan. The greedy relatives whisper in panic, realizing that if Chu Chen somehow succeeds, they will never be able to kick him out of the family. Bitterly praying for Chu Chen's failure, the second son-in-law consoles himself by recalling young Master Xia's notorious reputation for setting impossible business-killing traps. Over the years, countless brilliant minds have been utterly crushed and ruined by Xiaobei's bizarre, unsolvable psychological tests. With the chance of Chu Chen answering correctly standing at a flat 0, the relatives wait in agonized suspense, expecting an immediate, chaotic rejection. Inside the room, Xiaobei delivers the first test, asking what Chu Chen would do if his life's greatest achievement was completely stolen by another. Chu Chen merely chuckles with effortless indifference, replying that he couldn't care less about superficial fame and fortune. Impressed but unsatisfied, Xiaobei narrows his eyes, pressing deeper with a classic dilemma: the power to rule the entire world versus the love of a beautiful woman. Without a moment's hesitation, Chu Chen delivers a bold, arrogant answer, declaring he would rule the world by day and lie in his beloved's embrace by night. A lethal spark ignites in Xiaobei's eyes as he leans forward, demanding to know exactly how Chu Chen intends to make such a reckless fantasy a reality, with the entire partnership hanging in the absolute balance. Just as the high-stakes interrogation inside the study reaches its peak, the silence in the outer hallway is shattered by a sudden, frantic vibration from the father-in-law's phone. Trembling with apprehension, Song Xie Yang raises the device to his ear, his voice tight and shaking as he demands to know who is calling at such a critical hour. His blood runs completely cold as a chillingly familiar voice sneers on the other end, sending a wave of absolute dread straight through the patriarch's chest. It is none other than Yi Xiaohuang, lounging on a luxurious golden throne like a king, mocking the desperate Song family as he reveals a devastating hidden truth. A lethal grin stretches across Xiao Huang's face as he boasts that the Xiao family's contract is already in his hands, reducing Chu Chen's efforts to a pointless, empty formality. Dripping with absolute malice, Xiao Huang delivers a cruel warning, leaving the trembling father-in-law to choke on the terrifying realization of his family's impending doom. The line abruptly goes dead with a harsh tone, leaving Xiang frozen in a state of sheer, breathless panic while his anxious relatives scramble to ask what went wrong. In a voice filled with weeping despair, Xiang gasps that everything is ruined, declaring that their only hope of survival now is to immediately marry Yan Yan off to the vicious Yi family. Driven mad by absolute desperation, he violently commands his sons to prepare a new divorce decree immediately, resolved to sell his own daughter to save his skin. Overhearing the monstrous plot, Yan Yan stands frozen in absolute horror, her heart shattering as she realizes her own father is prepared to sacrifice her to her worst nightmare. But before the greedy plan can even begin, a sudden loud bang shakes the room, shattering the tense atmosphere as everyone turns in absolute confusion. Meanwhile, in his opulent office, a smug Ye Xiaohuang laughs in anticipation of his victory, completely convinced the foolish Song family is entirely at his mercy. As his elite legal team marches into the room, Xiaohuang smugly extends his hand, fully expecting to sign the multi-million-dollar contract and seal his rival's ultimate destruction. But the lead representative delivers a crushing, unexpected blow, coldly announcing that young Master Sha has suddenly ripped up the agreement and changed his mind. The representative explains that Chu Chen provided an answer so profoundly brilliant that the Sha family has officially terminated all ties with the Yi clan. Leaving the office with wide, triumphant grins, young Master Sha and Chu Chen walk side by side like blood brothers, completely ecstatic over their newly forged alliance. Back at the villa, a wave of paralyzing shock ripples through the relatives as the devastating news of Chu Chen's impossible victory crashes down upon them. Refusing to believe his own eyes, Xi Yang corners the powerful young master, desperately begging to know if they have truly chosen the useless son-in-law over the city's elites. With an energetic, booming laugh, young Master Sha ecstatically confirms the truth, declaring that Chu Chen's mind-blowing answer exceeded his wildest expectations. In a sudden flashback, the intense scene inside the study is revealed, with Xiao leaning in like a predator to demand Chu Chen's final make-or-break answer to his impossible test. With absolute composure, Chu Chen calmly breaks down the classic philosophical dilemma of choosing between two seemingly incompatible treasures. Standing tall with an aura of immense authority, Chu Chen boldly rejects the premise, declaring that a true conqueror of the world would never settle for choosing only one. He turns his sharp, calculating gaze toward the young master, questioning if he is truly satisfied with his reputation as a useless underachiever in the city. Pointing directly to the majestic scroll, Chu Chen delivers a legendary proposal, offering to elevate the eccentric heir to the absolute peak of Southern high society. A lethal, brilliant smile plays on Chuchen's lips as he redefines the limits of greed, claiming that only the grandest, most untouchable goals are beyond his reach. Hooked by the sheer audacity of the pitch, a thoroughly captivated Shah demands to know the secret behind this fearless philosophy. With a hilarious, legendary twist, Chuchen unrolls a scroll of criminal law, dryly pointing out that only illegal acts are off-limits in his relentless pursuit of greatness. Jia explodes into fits of ecstatic, roaring laughter, completely won over by Chuchen's masterful blend of towering ambition and brilliant, grounded wit. Back in the present, the father-in-law and his sons can only stare in silent, agonizing defeat, unable to comprehend how a simple joke secured the ultimate alliance. With the contract officially sealed, Zhao enthusiastically bids farewell to his brilliant new partner, leaving the Song family stunned by the casual bond between them. Breaking the stunned silence, the greedy relatives burst into the room waving the newly printed divorce papers, completely oblivious to the massive shift in power. But as Sheyong stares at the papers, a dark, dangerous understanding washes over him, his expression turning cold as his relatives urge him to expel Chuchen. In a stunning twist that leaves the greedy relatives screaming in horror, Xiang violently tears the divorce agreement to shreds with a single brutal rip. Roaring with sudden, desperate fury, Xiang declares that their alliances with the other families are dead, and Chuchen is now their only hope for survival. He tosses the shredded remnants of their greed into the air, screaming at his short-sighted sons to reflect on their own pathetic incompetence. Meanwhile, a thunderous crash echoes through the Ye family estate as a priceless porcelain vase is shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces of pure, unbridled rage. Spitting blood-curdling curses, Ye Xiaohuang kicks his desk aside, swearing a lethal, blood-soaked oath of vengeance against the Song family and his ultimate nemesis, Chuchen. The next morning, a deceptive peace hangs over the grand villa, masking the volatile storm brewing just beneath the surface of the city's power struggles. Walking out of the mansion hand in hand, Yan Yan lets out a sigh of relief as she proudly tells Chuchen that they are finally free to live on their own terms. But their peaceful exit is cut short by the burning, hateful glares of the second son-in-law and his greedy faction, silently praying for Chuchen's agonizing demise. A sudden, furious roar echoes across the courtyard, freezing Yan Yan in her tracks as Chuchen turns back with a cool, mildly amused expression of curiosity. Stomping forward with veins popping from his neck, the raging second uncle, Song Muyang, demands Chuchen kneel and beg for mercy for daring to strike his precious son. While the greedy relatives smirk in anticipation of a brutal beatdown, Yan Yan bravely steps forward, fiercely defending her husband by pointing out the cousin started the fight. Blinded by arrogant pride, the second uncle snarls that Chuchen has ruined the family's future, while Chuchen casually shrugs, ready to accept whatever pathetic punishment they try to inflict. Terrified of losing their new golden goose, the other relatives desperately try to hold the raging uncle back, screaming that Chuchen has already secured the legendary Shao partnership. The second uncle erupts into mocking laughter, completely dismissing the claims as a ridiculous lie, utterly convinced the patriarch would never protect a useless fool. Brushing past them with arrogant confidence, he sneers that he will personally demand Chuchen's immediate expulsion from the clan leaders. But as he enters the grand hall, he is met by the cold, heavy glares of the patriarch and the grandfather, who calmly confirm that Chuchen did indeed lock down the deal. The arrogant uncle and his bandaged son freeze in absolute soul-crushing horror, their minds completely shattered by the devastating truth. Pointing an accusing finger at the trembling cousin, the patriarch coldly declares that Chuchen was merely defending himself, leaving the arrogant duo utterly ruined as Chuchen's absolute dominance is permanently cemented. The patriarch's thunderous decree echoes through the hall, banishing the disgraced uncle and his son to copy the ancient family rules 10 times as their world utterly crumbles around them. Slumping out of the room with their heads hanging in absolute defeat, the humiliated duo retreats, dragging the heavy chains of their failed coup behind them. Watching their miserable exit, the rest of the family can only sigh in relief, realizing that challenging Chuchen was the biggest mistake of their lives. Amidst the lingering tension, Yan Yan softly calls out to her husband, her voice laced with a sudden, unexpected curiosity about what lies ahead. Suddenly, Chuchen reaches out and firmly grasps her hand, sending a jolt of electric surprise through her as she remembers their relationship was supposed to be strictly on paper. Keeping his cool demeanor, Chu Chen casually inquires if her second uncle has been clashing with her father lately, completely oblivious to her blushing embarrassment. Regaining her composure, Yanyan reveals that while there is no open war, the second uncle has always viewed her father as his ultimate mortal enemy. Sipping his tea, Chu Chen's eyes narrow as a brilliant piece of the puzzle falls into place. If the second uncle wanted to steal the family throne, poisoning the only son would be the perfect strike. But as he ponders the dark conspiracy, he notices Yanyan's face is completely flushed, her heart pounding frantically as she struggles to process his sudden touch. Meanwhile, far away at the luxurious villa of the rival branch, a storm of pure resentment brews as the humiliated cousin swears a blood oath to destroy Chu Chen. Driven to the edge of madness, the cousin frantically copies the family rules with both hands and feet, his mind entirely consumed by a manic urge for absolute vengeance. Just as his hysterical screaming reaches a fever pitch, a shadow looms in the doorway, calling him to calm down before he completely loses his mind. It is the second uncle's third son, Song Qinghe, stepping into the dim light with a chilling, arrogant smirk that promises swift and brutal retribution. He boasts of his return from the mysterious wizard sect, possessing lethal dark arts that are more than enough to crush any ordinary man. With a sinister grin, he shakes a heavy black sack, unleashing a terrifying glowing spiritual serpent that is primed to hunt down their ultimate nemesis. Back at the main villa, Yanyan is overwhelmed with anxiety, questioning why Chu Chen would hand over such a massive, life-changing contract to her. Looking at the colossal mountain of paperwork piling up on her desk, she feels the crushing weight of the entire family's future resting solely on her shoulders. But with a cheerful click, Chu Chen casually brandishes a feather duster, completely dismissing the corporate stress with an easygoing laugh. Dressed in a playful apron, he ecstatically proclaims himself the humble house husband, eager to leave the complex business dealings to his brilliant wife. Pinching her temples in exasperation, Yanyan sighs at his lack of ambition, desperately wishing he would do something practical instead of just cleaning. Suddenly, Chu Chen's playful expression vanishes, replaced by a razor-sharp, lethal focus, as his acute senses detect a sinister threat invading their sanctuary. Misunderstanding his sudden silence, Yanyan smiles, hoping her harsh scolding has finally awakened his sleeping ambition. But Chu Chen merely covers his face, feigning exhaustion as he plots his next move to protect his unsuspecting wife from the creeping danger. Excusing himself with a grand, dramatic exit, he struts out of the room, leaving Yanyan to huff at his seemingly childish behavior. As soon as the door closes, a glowing, venomous serpent reveals itself on the grand chandelier, ready to strike from the shadows. Spotting the beast immediately, Chu Chen scoffs in disappointment, instantly recognizing the creature as a low-level, second-rate spiritual construct. Summoning the ancient power of his secret sect, Chu Chen unleashes a brilliant wave of mystic energy, completely overpowering the serpent with a single flick of his duster. He effortlessly snatches the thrashing beast out of the air, realizing that the Black Wizard sect has officially declared war on him. Suddenly, a frantic servant bangs on the door, announcing the unexpected and high-stakes arrival of the dangerous young Master Yi. Chu Chen's eyes darken with intense calculation, immediately suspecting that Ye Xiaohuang is the mastermind behind the spiritual attack. With a cold, confident smirk, Chu Chen decides to turn the tables on his rival, eager to watch the arrogant heir utterly destroy himself. Out in the courtyard, Ye Xiaohuang proudly stands before the second uncle, officially signing a massive three-way alliance to bypass the main family. Overhearing the devastating news, Yanyan's parents freeze in absolute despair, realizing they are about to be completely stripped of their power. The patriarch bitterly explains that Xiaohong is deliberately funding their rivals, launching a fatal economic strike to banish them from the clan. Lounging like a king, Xiaohuang sips his tea with a smug grin, completely convinced he has successfully cornered his helpless prey. But his moment of triumph is instantly shattered as Chu Chen strolls into the courtyard, casually greeting the billionaire with a mocking wave. Leaning in with a menacingly pleasant smile, Chu Chen inquires about Xiaohong's health, subtly referencing a dark secret that triggers instant panic. A terrifying memory flashes through Xiaohuang's mind, recalling a night of agonizing supernatural torment that nearly claimed his life. Trembling with sudden fear, Xiaohuang desperately tries to change the subject, begging to move the business discussion indoors to escape Chu Chen's piercing gaze. Watching the arrogant heir scurry away in terror, Chu-Chen can only chuckle, thoroughly amused by how easily his rival was shaken. The game is far from over. Beneath the shadows of the garden, the loyal spirit serpent silently slithers back toward its unsuspecting master's leg. Ignorant of the hidden threat, the greedy relatives panic, terrified that the second uncle's new alliance will strip them of everything. Chu-Chen steps forward to reassure them, pointing out that their legendary alliance with the massive Sha family vastly outclasses any deal the Ye clan can offer. Refusing to believe him, the second uncle's faction explodes in furious laughter, mocking the Jia family as mere newcomers who could never match the Ye family's local dominance. Chu-Chen's lips curl into a cold, dangerous smile, ready to unleash the ultimate trap he has meticulously prepared for his enemies. Channeling his mystic energy, he subtly triggers the spiritual bond, commanding the captured serpent to execute its final lethal directive. A blood-curdling scream of pure agony suddenly shatters the night air, freezing the entire courtyard in absolute paralyzing horror. Meanwhile, back at the rival villa, the smug cousins laugh in anticipation, completely convinced Chu-Chen is currently being torn apart by their beast. Ecstatic to hear the distant screams, they quickly pull out a phone, eager to live-stream their rival's ultimate and public humiliation. But their smug smiles instantly vanish into a mask of pure, bone-chilling horror as they look at the screen and realize the terrifying truth of who is actually screaming. The cousins' malicious livestream backfires in spectacular, humiliating fashion as Yi Xiaohuang's agonizing screams echo through the screen, begging for mercy from a bite to his own backside. The scheming cousins freeze in absolute mind-shattering shock, their smug smiles instantly replaced by cold sweat as they realize their ultimate weapon has just turned on their own powerful ally. Back in the courtyard, chaos erupts as the terrified relatives swarm the convulsing air, screaming in utter panic for an ambulance to save the dying young master. Trembling with dread, the cousin desperately begs his dark art sibling to cure the poison, only to be met with a chilling whispered warning that doing so now would surely cost them their own lives. Standing back with cold, calculating eyes, Chu-Chen watches the frantic duo, his sharp senses instantly detecting the subtle, creeping aura of forbidden witchcraft lingering around the younger brother. Connecting the spiritual dots, Chu-Chen realizes this newcomer is indeed the puppet master behind the deadly serpent, even as the panicked father begs the crowd for someone to perform first aid on his dying son. With a sinister, knowing smirk, Chu-Chen casually steps forward to volunteer, bypassing the panicked crowd to scoop up a heavy dose of dirty pond water using none other than Ye Xiaohuang's own expensive shoe. The relatives gasp in absolute bewilderment, screaming at Chu-Chen to stop his bizarre, disrespectful antics before he completely desecrates the billionaire heir's pride. Unbothered by their screams, Chu-Chen flashes a cold, mockingly pleasant smile, holding up the water-filled shoe like a priceless trophy of impending doom. Without a second's hesitation, he hurls the dirty pond water directly onto Xiaohuang's face, delivering a shocking liquid slap that reverberates across the silent courtyard. Horror washes over the crowd as Yan-Yan and the relatives cry out in sheer disbelief, utterly convinced Chu-Chen has finally crossed a line from which there is no return. Blinded by fury, the greedy uncle points an accusing finger, shrieking that Chu-Chen is merely taking a petty, vengeful shot under the guise of medical aid and demanding immediate family execution. But before they can seize him, Xiaohuang suddenly gasps and sputters, coughing up a violent spray of pond water as his eyelids flutter open. Clutching his throbbing head, the bewildered heir slowly sits up, completely oblivious to his salvation, as he wonders aloud what foul, wretched stench is covering his face. Eager to curry favor, the sycophantic relatives desperately explain that it was Chu-Chen who saved his life, using his very own shoe to revive him from the brink of death. Xiaohuang's eyes narrow in deep, burning suspicion, his fragile ego deeply bruised by the sheer absurdity of being saved by his most hated rival with a shoe. Delivering the ultimate psychological blow, Chu-Chen casually remarks that he suffers from severe, toxic athlete's foot, triggering an instant, violent wave of projectile vomiting from the horrified heir. Sirens wail in the distance as the ambulance finally arrives, carting off the humiliated, bubble-blowing heir while the family watches his pathetic departure in stunned silence. Watching him go, Yan-Yan's anxiety spikes to a courier pitch as she warns Chu-Chen that his humiliating stunt has guaranteed a lifetime of lethal vengeance from the powerful Ye family. She begs him to lay low and stay confined to the safety of the villa, but Chuchen's phone suddenly buzzes with a high-stakes call from the influential young Master Shah, beckoning him out into the dangerous night. Despite Yanyan's frantic protests that stepping outside is a death sentence, Chuchen merely flashes a dashing, carefree grin, declaring that he must strike while the iron of their new alliance is boiling hot. A roaring engine shatters the tension as his loyal brother-in-law Q slides in with a sleek sports car, proudly announcing himself as Chuchen's ultimate shield against any threats. With a powerful screech of tires, the vehicle tears out of the driveway and into the dark city streets, leaving Yanyan standing completely helpless in their wake. Left behind in the dust, Yanyan's face flushes with a mix of fury and exasperation, realizing that Chuchen has completely corrupted her own brother to his wild, unpredictable side. Meanwhile, the heavy, sterile halls of the city hospital are shattered by blood-curdling screams of pure, unadulterated agony. Inside the ward, a sweating doctor desperately explains that all medical tests show the agonizing heir is completely healthy, utterly blind to the invisible curse still eating him alive. Suddenly, the door creaks open as the heavily bandaged cousin hobbles in on crutches, his face twisted in shared misery and burning hatred. Thrashing in his bed, Xiaohong shrieks like a madman, ordering his allies to immediately hire the most brutal hitmen to rip Chuchen's limbs apart piece by piece. Pinching his nose in disgust, the cousin suddenly pauses, realizing that Chuchen's lingering athlete's foot toxin has permanently transformed the luxury hospital ward into a foul-smelling swamp. Gritting his teeth through the stench, the cousin swears a blood oath to unleash the ruthless fighters of his massive boxing gyms, promising to pound Chuchen into a bloody pulp the moment he shows his face. But far away from their petty threats, the neon lights of the legendary Tianhao bar pulse with wild, dangerous energy as a new storm begins to gather. Deep within the decadent VIP lounge, a circle of elite, wealthy heirs raise their glasses in a raucous celebration of their massive, illegal gambling winnings. However, a tense warning cuts through the music as the pink-haired young Master Shah cautions their ringleader, Huang Yuhai, about the deadly consequences if his traditional grandfather catches him using sacred competitions for greed. Huang Yuhai merely scoffs with arrogant superiority, boasting that a legendary master of the occult recently gifted him godlike powers, ensuring he is far too valuable for anyone to ever question. The greedy sycophants instantly cheer, raising their glasses to Yuhai's endless fortune and begging him to give them a demonstration of his terrifying new abilities. Whispering sweet nothings into his ear, the girls around Yuhai beg him to reveal the dark and mysterious powers he claimed to have mastered. Bursting into a confident, menacing laugh, Yuhai promises to give them a terrifying taste of his supreme authority right then and there. He pulls out a mysterious blank paper doll, boasting that possessing anyone's birth date allows him to write it onto the paper man and control their very body like a helpless puppet. The playful atmosphere instantly evaporates into a tense, nervous silence as the girls shrink back in sudden, bone-chilling fear of his unnatural tools. Laughing nervously to break the mounting tension, a guest quickly suggests they stick to drinking, pointing out that nobody in their right mind would ever surrender their birth date to such dark sorcery. Yuhai's face twists in violent rage as he slams his drink onto the table, snarling that their refusal is a direct, unforgivable insult to his unmatched power. As the guests desperately try to appease the raging heir, the heavy VIP door suddenly clicks open, signaling the arrival of an unexpected guest. Walking into the room with absolute relaxed confidence, Chuchen casually raises his hand to greet young Master Shah, completely unbothered by the heavy atmosphere. While young Master Shah spits out his drink in sheer shock, Yuhai's eyes lock on to Chuchen with a predatory, wicked grin, realizing he has just been handed the perfect, unsuspecting test subject. Leaning back like an arrogant king, Yuhai demands Chuchen immediately surrender his birth date, sneering that playing along is his only hope of being pardoned for his late arrival. Chuchen's expression turns into one of cold, deadpan amusement, mockingly repeating the heir's pathetic offer to pardon him. The entire room holds its collective breath as the heavy, suffocating silence of an impending clash settles over the luxurious lounge. Pointing a mocking finger right back at the arrogant heir, Chu Chen ice coldly demands to know who Yu-hai thinks he is to demand such secrets, questioning if he truly believes himself to be a god. The absolute jaw-dropping audacity of Chu Chen's defiance leaves the entire room paralyzed in sheer breathless terror of the impending bloodbath. Terrified of a lethal escalation, young Master Sha frantically interjects, desperately offering his own birth date to appease the raging Yu-hai and save his business partner from certain destruction. Young Master Sha steps in, sweating profusely as he surrenders his own birth date to keep the peace. He knows they are on dangerous, hostile ground where the rules of civilized society no longer apply. But before he can smooth things over, Chu Chen ruthlessly shatters the tension, calling the powerful heir a cheap, cheating fraud right to his face. The ultimate insult rings through the room like a gunshot, freezing the blood of everyone present. Shabi's heart drops into his stomach, his eyes wide with sheer panic as he stares at Chu Chen, realizing his hot-headed partner has just signed their death warrants. Fury explodes in the decadent lounge as Yu-hai's sycophants scream in outrage, demanding that the arrogant intruder immediately fall to his knees and beg for mercy. They are ready to tear Chu Chen apart for daring to mock their supreme leader. But with a chilling, superior sneer, Yu-hai waves his lackeys down, raising his hand to silence the room. He declares that kneeling is far too simple, mockingly claiming he would hate to be accused of bullying a helpless, brainless idiot. Leaning forward like a predator cornering its prey, Yu-hai offers a sinister wager. He challenges Chu Chen to a gamble of life and death, swearing to cast his dark voodoo on Xiaobei to prove his powers are real. And if he succeeds, Chu Chen must crawl out of the bar like a dog. Unfazed by the terrifying threat, Chu Chen steps forward, his eyes burning with cold defiance. He coolly counters the wager, demanding to know what humiliation Yu-hai will suffer when his precious little parlor trick inevitably fails. With a smug, mocking smile, Chu Chen moves past Xiaobei, his fingers moving with impossible speed as he secretly slaps a glowing yellow containment talisman onto the young heir's back. He demands to know if Yu-hai is truly prepared to bow before him when his dark arts crumble. The room erupts in mocking laughter at Chu Chen's apparent madness, convinced the arrogant fool is completely doomed. Xiaobei trembles in absolute terror, but Chu Chen merely places a steady, comforting hand on his shoulder, whispering that the entire situation is already firmly under his control. The sycophants whisper in dark anticipation, knowing that Yu-hai has spent years studying forbidden occult arts under a ruthless master. They are completely convinced that once the paper curse is activated, Xiaobei's very soul will belong to his new puppet master. Yet, Chu Chen only sneers in utter disgust, casually dismissing the dreaded paperman curse as amateur child's play. He icily remarks that he lost interest in such primitive, low-level sorcery before he even turned 6 years old. Ignorant of the doom awaiting him, Yu-hai raises the paper doll, his face twisting in a sadistic grin as the dark voodoo ink begins to burn. He boasts that the ritual is complete and Xiaobei's fate is now permanently sealed. Standing at the center of the lounge, Yu-hai commands Xiaobei to prepare himself to witness a terrifying, unnatural miracle. The surrounding crowd watches with breathless, wicked glee, waiting for the young heir's body to bend to Yu-hai's absolute will. Sweat pours down Xiaobei's face as he shivers with dread, praying that Chu Chen's mysterious confidence isn't just an empty, lethal bluff. Behind him, Chu Chen remains a calm anchor of supreme, unshakable power, waiting for the trap to spring. With a manic, bloodthirsty laugh, Yu-hai slams a needle directly into the arm of the paper doll, screaming for Xiaobei's left hand to rise on command. The atmosphere in the room thickens with a heavy, suffocating dread as Xiaobei shuts his eyes, braced for the agonizing sensation of his muscles being forcefully hijacked by dark magic. But as the seconds tick by, the expected pain never comes. Xiaobei slowly opens his eyes, looking down at his perfectly still limbs in stunned confusion. An awkward, deafening silence descends upon the luxury VIP lounge, shattering the terrifying build-up as absolutely nothing happens. Xiaobei stands completely normal, realizing he doesn't feel a single spark of the dark magic. The smug smiles instantly drain from the faces of the onlookers as Yu-hai's eyes bulge in pure, sweating panic. Desperately trying to save face, he stammers that it was merely a harmless warm-up to tease his audience. Losing his mind in sudden rage, Yuhai frantically stabs the paper doll over and over, screaming a barrage of desperate commands at the top of his lungs. But Xiaobei just stands there, watching the wildly flailing heir behave like a certified lunatic. Yuhai's heart races in pure terror as he realizes his flawless 100% success rate has just been utterly shattered. He has no idea that Chu Chen's ancient talisman is effortlessly absorbing every ounce of his cursed spiritual energy. Stepping forward with a dazzling, mockingly pleasant smile, Chu Chen casually asks if Yuhai has any other pathetic performance to show them. He ruthlessly roasts the heir, comparing his frantic, useless needle stabbing to a bitter old court lady throwing a temper tantrum. The hilarious, humiliating mental image flashes through Yuhai's mind, driving him into a frothing, murderous frenzy as his lackeys shriek at Chu Chen for daring to defile their master's pride. Terrified of a bloody, immediate retaliation, Xiaobai desperately tries to pull Chu Chen away, pleading that they should call it a night and leave before things escalate into a slaughter. But Chu Chen refuses to budge an inch, his eyes locking onto the trembling Yuhai with cold, relentless amusement. He loudly reminds the entire room of the bet, demanding to know if the great young Master Huang is planning to back out of his promise to kneel. A thunderous crash echoes through the lounge as Yuhai's thuggish enforcer smashes a heavy bottle, stepping forward with murderous intent and snarling that Chu Chen is begging for a brutal, painful death. But before the thug can strike, Yuhai suddenly raises his hand, his voice trembling with a terrifying, dark intensity as he orders his enforcer to halt. Slowly leaning back into his seat, Yuhai stares at Chu Chen through narrowed, venomous eyes. He whispers Chu Chen's name like a death curse, icily asking if the arrogant newcomer is truly prepared to handle the devastating consequences of forcing him to his knees. Chu Chen merely scoffs at the empty threat, stepping forward to loom over the seated heir. He coldly commands Yuhai to stop wasting time and drop to his knees immediately, ignoring Xiaobei's frantic, terrified whispers. Suddenly, a heavy, invisible gravity slams into the room with the force of a falling mountain, ruthlessly crushing Yuhai's pride and forcing his legs to give out. Yuhai's eyes bulge in pure, veins-popping agony as the hidden spiritual pressure of Chu Chen's talisman violently snaps his bones. He realizes too late that the humiliating kneeling he was forced into is a curse he can never survive. With a sickening thud, Yuhai is driven brutally to the floor, his knees slamming hard against the carpet as he is forced to bow in absolute submission before his most hated rival. The entire room gasps in paralyzed, mind-shattering shock as they witness the unthinkable. The legendary, untouchable master of the occult, Huang Yuhai, has actually been forced to kneel before Chu Chen. Towering over the defeated heir like a merciless god, Chu Chen lets out a dry, mocking chuckle. He dismissively addresses Yuhai as Mama Huang, casually giving him permission to rise from his pathetic kneeling state. The supreme, kingly arrogance of Chu Chen's mockery leaves Xiaobei completely speechless, his brain struggling to process the sheer audacity of treating a powerful billionaire heir like a lowly, bumbling servant. But the temporary victory is instantly shattered by the thunderous, synchronized stomping of heavy boots echoing down the corridor. A wave of cold dread washes over Xiaobei as the VIP lounge doors are violently blocked by a formidable wall of muscle. A ruthless legion of highly trained, suit-clad security guards has arrived to seal their escape. Gritting his teeth through his agonizing humiliation, Yuhai slowly rises, his face twisted into a demonic, bloodthirsty snarl. He viciously orders his men to slaughter Chu Chen, swearing he will take full responsibility even if they leave a corpse. A massive crowd of armed thugs tightens their circle, blocking every single exit with cold, ruthless precision. Xiaobai's heart hammers against his ribs, realizing they are hopelessly outnumbered in a hostile fortress. Stealing his resolve, Xiaobei cracks his knuckles, whispering urgently for Chu Chen to find an opening and run the moment he initiates the fight, declaring that the thugs won't dare to kill a member of the Xia family. Chu Chen merely chuckles at the suggestion of fleeing, his eyes glinting with a dangerous, thrill-seeking light. He mockingly repeats the word run as a terrifying aura of power begins to swirl around his body. Without a single warning, Chu Chen launches himself into the air like a launched missile, his body blurring into a streak of pure, devastating speed. Yuhai watches him fly forward, letting out an arrogant, confident scoff as he prepares his weapon, fully convinced that Chu Chen cannot possibly bypass his elite defenses to reach him. But Chu Chen's movement is too fast for the human eye to track, cutting through the defensive line like a hot knife through butter. A thunderous explosion of wood and concrete echoes through the lounge as Chu Chen slams directly into Yuhai, the sheer force of the impact launching the wealthy heir backward. The air is violently ripped from Yuhai's lungs as he is pinned mercilessly against the shattered wall, his throat crushed tightly in Chu Chen's iron grip. Leaning in close, Chu Chen flashes a terrifying, razor-sharp smirk that promises absolute ruin, his voice dripping with icy venom. His eye flares with a brilliant emerald spiritual light, radiating a terrifying pressure that paralyzes everyone in the room. He softly asks what Yuhai could possibly do to stop him now that he is within striking distance. The entire army of armed thugs freezes in sheer, breathless terror, completely paralyzed by the overwhelming, monstrous display of raw power before them. Xiao Bei's jaw drops in utter disbelief, his mind completely blown as he realizes Chu Chen just effortlessly neutralized a trained martial arts expert in a single blinding second. But the stunned silence is instantly shattered as Yuhai's furious lackey shrieks at the top of his lungs, desperately commanding the terrified guards to swarm Chu Chen and beat him to a bloody pulp. With bloodthirsty roars, the armed thugs charge forward in unison, weapons raised to execute their master's lethal order. The air turns freezing cold as they close the gap, determined to tear Chu Chen apart. Panicking at the impending bloodbath, Xiao Bai desperately tries to hold Chu Chen back, begging his friend to stop his reckless assault and escape while there is still a chance to survive. But before the weapons can connect, a sudden, booming shout echoes through the lounge, instantly freezing the charging enforcers in their tracks as their eyes widen in absolute confusion. Gasping and trembling, Yuhai desperately croaks out a command through Chu Chen's suffocating grip, ordering his entire army of security guards to back down and let Chu Chen walk away untouched. The unexpected surrender sends a shockwave through the room, leaving Yuhai's blonde lackey staring in utter brain-melting disbelief at his master's terrifying submission. With a dry, dismissive scoff, Chu Chen releases his grip, sending Yuhai crashing heavily onto the floor, before casually calling Xiao Bei to leave this pathetic scene behind. The sycophants look on in stunned silence, their minds reeling as they realize the untouchable, merciless heir is actually letting Chu Chen walk out of his territory completely unharmed. Gasping for air as he struggles to his feet, Yuhai's heart hammers with a terrifying realization about the true, hidden reason his ultimate curse failed so spectacularly. Cold sweat pours down Yuhai's face as the crushing truth dawns on him. Chu Chen isn't some ordinary fool, but a monstrously powerful cultivator from an ancient mystical sect. Staring at the shattered wall behind him, Yuhai trembles with a newfound dread, realizing that his years of forbidden occult training are nothing more than pathetic child's play compared to Chu Chen's godlike power. The tense silence of the lounge is suddenly pierced by the loud, persistent ringing of a phone, snapping the blonde lackey out of his daze as he hastily answers the call. The lackey's face lights up with sudden sadistic excitement as he reports that a massive squad of elite boxers has just arrived at the venue, ready to tear Chu Chen to pieces. But Yuhai merely scoffs in exhaustion, waving his hand dismissively and declaring that the incoming fighters won't stand a ghost of a chance against Chu Chen. Having peeked into the terrifying, hidden realm of true mystic arts, Yuhai warns his clueless followers that pursuing Chu Chen will only lead them to a brutal, agonizing demise. Refusing to believe his master's warning, the blonde lackey rushes to the window to witness the supposed ambush, only for his face to instantly turn pale with pure horror. Down in the courtyard below, the entire squad of elite boxers lie scattered across the pavement, completely unconscious and brutally defeated without ever making it inside. Realizing the horrifying scale of Chu Chen's power, Yuhai makes a silent, sweating vow. He must either summon a master-level cultivator from his own sect or ensure he never crosses Chu Chen's path again. Out on the quiet streets, a completely bewildered Xiao Bei runs to catch up with Chu Chen, desperately demanding to know what kind of terrifying trick he pulled to bypass the guards. Chu Chen merely flashes a casual, mocking smirk, brushing off the miraculous victory by jokingly suggesting the elite fighters simply tripped over themselves in the dark. But before Xiao Bei can press further, Chu Chen checks his phone and panics, realizing his wife is tracking him, proving that the man who just conquered a billionaire heir is terrified of his wife's wrath. Speeding away in his car, Chu Chen sighs with relief, while his companion ruthlessly teases him for being a legendary warrior who cowers at the mere thought of a scolding from his wife. Meanwhile, inside a towering corporate headquarters, a furious voice screams into a phone receiver, unable to comprehend how an entire squad of trained killers was neutralized in seconds. In a nearby hospital room, Xiao Huang thrashes in his bed, his eyes wild with burning jealousy and rage as he wonders why the prestigious Xia family is protecting Chu Chen. His mother gently tries to calm him down, offering comfort and promising that they will find a way to make Chu Chen pay for his arrogance. But her soothing words are shattered as Xiao Huang suddenly screeches in pure agony, a terrifying, burning numbness coursing through his limbs at the slightest touch. Witnessing her son's unnatural torment, the mother's face twists into a demonic scowl of pure hatred, swearing that Chu Chen will suffer a fate worse than death for what he did. By the next morning, a scandalous, fabricated headline has exploded across the city, falsely claiming that Chu Chen is the secret lover of the wealthy young Master Xia. Holding his phone, the arrogant Song Qingpeng laughs hysterically in the courtyard, thrilled to finally have a weapon of public humiliation to destroy Chu Chen's reputation. Confronting him on the steps, Song Yan is furious, demanding to know what pathetic lies he is trying to spread to damage her family's name. Qingpeng smugly sneers, mocking Song Yan for being blind to her husband's supposed hidden betrayals while boasting that the entire city is already laughing at them. Chu Chen calmly steps up to his worried wife, playfully dismissing the desperate gossip as completely harmless, though Song Yan worries it could ruin their massive corporate partnership. Reassuring her with a warm smile, Chu Chen remarks that karma has a beautiful way of striking back at liars, just as a blood-curdling scream of agony suddenly echoes through the garden. Song Yan gasps in shock, her eyes wide as the desperate, tragic cries of pain grow louder and more frantic from the nearby bushes. Rounding the corner, they find a terrified Qingpeng screaming for help, thrashing wildly as a massive, venomous snake bites him directly in his lower groin. While Song Yan covers her mouth in sheer horror, Chu Chen merely watches with a knowing, highly amused smirk, leaving his wife to wonder if he somehow predicted this perfect strike of karma. Telling his wife to avert her eyes from the gruesome sight, Chu Chen confidently steps forward, claiming he will heroically save the agonizing man from the venomous beast. With blinding speed, Chu Chen launches himself into the air, his eyes gleaming with mischievous intent as he prepares to deliver his unique version of first aid. Landing with a devastating thud, Chu Chen's heavy boot slams directly into Qingpeng's groin, crushing both the venomous snake and the man's last hopes of survival. Unleashing a rapid-fire barrage of kicks, Chu Chen loudly calls it his shadowless kick, ensuring the snake is completely obliterated while sending the victim into a state of unconscious shock. Alerted by the chaotic noise, a squad of armed security guards rushes into the garden, staring in complete bewilderment at the brutal scene before them. The furious guard captain points a shaking finger at Chu Chen, screaming at his men to immediately seize and beat the lunatic who just crippled his brother. Unfazed, Chu Chen casually raises his hands in mock innocence, telling the aggressive guards to get their facts straight before making accusations. With a straight face, Chu Chen explains that he bravely risked his own life to stomp out a venomous snake that had latched onto their brother's most sensitive area. The guard captain stares down in sudden, paralyzing horror as he recognizes the distinctive markings of the deadly missing serpent. Writhing on the grass in absolute agony, the poisoned victim desperately begs his brother to extract the lethal venom before it's too late. Panicking, the captain screams for his men to carry his dying brother back to their estate immediately, ignoring everything else in a desperate race against time. As they carry the twitching victim away, Song Yan watches in utter disbelief, while Chu Chen happily records the hilarious, chaotic retreat on his phone. Soon after, at the luxurious villa of the family's second uncle, a grand exterior belies the sudden wave of panic and fury taking over the household. Kneeling on the floor in tears, the second uncle cradles the crushed, lifeless body of the rare, highly trained spiritual snake he had lovingly nurtured for years. While the family scrambles to find a way to treat the victim's gruesome injuries, they realize too late that Chu Chen has not only humiliated them, but completely dismantled their hidden spiritual weapon. In the quiet bedroom of the second uncle, the tension is palpable as a secret plot begins to unfold. He smugly breaks the news that their eldest brother, Qinglong, has successfully captured the heart of the second lady of the incredibly powerful Huang family and is about to meet her influential parents. The shocking news instantly electrifies the room, sending a jolt of greedy excitement through the bedridden patient. They realize that securing the backing of the Huang family, the undisputed wealthiest powerhouse in Zen City, means the position of family head is practically in their pocket, completely bypassing their rivals. Meanwhile, at the breathtaking grand estate of the legendary Huang family, the head of the household is in deep contemplation. Holding a newly delivered piece of master-level calligraphy, he wonders aloud if Yu Hai truly wrote these magnificent characters himself. Sitting in his traditional study, Master Huang Jianghong looks down at the scroll with absolute awe. The sheer strength and divine energy vibrating off the ink leave him completely spellbound, convinced that no calligrapher in Zen City could ever match such peerless genius. Standing before him, Yu Hai plays the role of the humble prodigy, hiding a sinister smirk as he downplays his own talent. In truth, he knows the characters were secretly written by powerful elders of his mystic sect, guaranteeing he will easily win the old master's ultimate favor. Blinded by the majestic aura of the writing, Master Huang confidently orders Yu Hai to throw away every other competitor's submission. He declares he has no desire to look at anyone else's pathetic attempts, sealing Yu Hai's victory before the competition even begins. With a look of petty triumph, Yu Hai marches over to the discarded stack of calligraphy scrolls, ready to tear them to shreds. But as he begins to shred the submissions of those who dared challenge him, a sudden, familiar name catches his eye. Sifting through the pile, Yu Hai's blood turns to ice as he pulls out a scroll bearing the signature of Chu Chen. He scoffs in bitter disbelief, mocking the brute for trying his hand at refined art, eager to see just how ugly and pathetic the cultivator's handwriting truly is. The moment Yu Hai snaps open Chu Chen's scroll, a blinding, thunderous shockwave of divine energy explodes from the paper. A monstrous, glowing blue dragon of pure spiritual power rises from the script, letting out a deafening, terrifying roar that rattles the entire room. The terrifying aura instantly paralyzes Yu Hai, leaving him trembling in sheer horror as the overwhelming pressure suffocates his senses. Behind him, Master Huang senses the massive eruption of power, his eyes widening in utter shock at the unbelievable phenomenon. Shaken to his core, Master Huang rushes forward, pointing a trembling finger at the glowing masterpiece. His voice cracks with desperate urgency as he demands to know exactly who penned this legendary work of art. Clutching Chu Chen's scroll like a priceless treasure, the old master's face lights up with frantic, breathless excitement. He declares that the sheer, godlike soul infused in these characters is the exact holy grail he has been searching for his entire life. Yu Hai's smug composure completely shatters into a pale mask of panic as he realizes his grandfather is discarding his own sect's writing. Desperate, he tries to salvage his pride, begging his grandfather to reconsider using his submissions instead. The old master dismisses him with a cold, mocking laugh, stating that Yu Hai's handwriting doesn't even deserve to be compared to this masterpiece. Driven by pure jealousy, Yu Hai desperately lies, claiming the writer is nothing but a notorious fool whose work must have been ghostwritten. Turning his back with an icy, authoritative glare, Master Huang shuts down the protests immediately. He coldly states that in his world, only the best reign supreme, and whoever wrote this masterpiece is the undisputed champion of the competition. Forced to bow his head in bitter submission, Yu Hai grinds his teeth as cold sweat pours down his face. Behind his submissive facade, his heart burns with a murderous rage, swearing that he will publicly expose Chu Chen's ghostwriter at the grand opening and humiliate him in front of the entire city. Meanwhile, across the city at a sleek, towering medical facility, a different kind of desperation is brewing. Inside, the painful cries of a suffering heir echo through the sterile halls, defying the best efforts of modern medicine. In a luxurious private room, Xiaohong's mother tightly clutches her son's hand, trying to soothe his agony. She promises him that his father has already contacted the absolute best specialists in the imperial city to transfer him immediately. But Xiaohong screams in pure terror, thrashing violently as a horrifying, icy numbness spreads rapidly through his limbs. Realizing the doctors are completely useless, he shrieks that they need Chu Chen's miraculous help right this instant. His mother's face twists in deep confusion and anger, wondering why they would ever beg their mortal enemy for help. She confidently reassures him that Chu Chen will soon be ruined anyway, boasting about the scandalous rumors she leaked to destroy his alliance with the Xia family. Xiaohong fiercely rejects her petty schemes, screaming that the agonizing poison is killing him and that Chu Chen is the only one who knows the cure. Panicking at her son's desperate pleas, the mother quickly promises to swallow her pride and contact Chu Chen immediately. Across town, Chuchin casually answers his ringing phone, his voice dripping with relaxed indifference. He warns the caller to make it quick, as he is currently busy accompanying his wife during an important corporate meeting. On the other end, Xiaohong gasps for breath, his arrogant pride completely gone as he desperately identifies himself. With a trembling voice, he swallows his dignity and frantically asks Chuchen if he knows how to neutralize a lethal snake venom. Chuchen's lips curl into a cold, mocking smirk as he reminds the panicked heir of the brutal ambush his thugs pulled at the bar the previous night. With calm satisfaction, he prepares to hang up, leaving the desperate man to rot in his own karma. Terrified of being abandoned, Xiaowang screams into the receiver, begging Chuchen to wait. He frantically promises that if Chuchen saves his life, they will bury the hatchet forever and he will never dare to cross him again. Chuchen chuckles softly, thoroughly enjoying the pathetic begging, but notes that there is still one major issue. He casually mentions that his father-in-law is still deeply upset about losing the highly lucrative three-way corporate cooperation. Desperate to survive, Xiaohuang immediately capitulates, screaming that he will reinstate the partnership with the Song family and even swears on his own life to seal the deal. Chuchen's eyes gleam with absolute satisfaction as he hears the satisfying surrender. He softly agrees to the terms, but as a final, cruel twist, he casually mentions that when it comes to snake venom, there are actually very specific cures. Xiaohuang's eyes bulge in a sudden furious panic, suspecting that Chuchen is merely playing with his life like a toy. He screams into the phone, demanding to know if he's being made a fool of while his body slowly paralyzes. Keeping his cool, Chuchen tells him to relax, admitting he doesn't personally hold the cure, but knows the exact person who does. With a mischievous grin, he tells the dying heir to check his messages, as he has just sent him a very revealing video. Trembling, Xiaohuang looks down at his phone screen, only to gasp in sheer disbelief as the video plays. His eyes widen in horror as he recognizes the very same spiritual snake that bit him, now savagely clamping down on Song Qingpeng's groin. Chuchen's cheerful voice rings through the speaker, explaining that Qingpeng was brutally bitten by the exact same poisonous serpent earlier that day. But instead of going to a hospital, Qingpeng's family simply took him home, where he miraculously recovered instantly. With a final mocking laugh, Chuchen tells the stunned heir to call Qingpeng himself to get the secret, before abruptly hanging up the phone and leaving Xiaohuang in a state of frantic confusion. The terrifying truth suddenly strikes Xiaohuang like a lightning bolt as he connects the dots. He realizes that since Qingpeng's father was standing right there when the snake attacked, the family must possess the ultimate antidote, but deliberately kept it hidden to watch him suffer. Consumed by a wave of furious betrayal, Xiaohuang screeches at his mother to drag Song Qingpeng and his family to the hospital immediately. He is determined to force the truth out of them, unaware that they have fallen perfectly into Chuchen's chaotic trap. Back in the corporate lounge, Chuchen happily tosses his phone in the air, leaning back with a victorious smirk. He can barely contain his excitement, eagerly anticipating the chaotic, explosive showdown that is about to erupt between his enemies. Just then, the heavy double doors click open, and Song Yan walks out alongside Sha Bei and his fourth uncle. The atmosphere is light as they celebrate the absolute brilliance of Song Yan's corporate proposal, which has completely won over the skeptical partners. Sha Yanhuan beams with pride, confidently declaring that with Song Yan's groundbreaking proposal, their joint pharmaceutical venture is guaranteed to break into the highly competitive Zen City market within a single year. Hearing the praise, Chuchen instantly wraps an arm around Sha Bei, boastfully claiming that his wife is a corporate goddess who will make their company soar to unimaginable heights. Song Yan can only roll her eyes, playfully sighing at the duo's utter lack of modesty just as Sha Bei's phone suddenly rings. Happily answering the call, Sha Bei greets his powerful grandfather, expecting words of praise, but the joyful expression on his face instantly freezes as a booming, furious voice roars from the speaker. The color completely drains from Sha Bei's face as his grandfather furiously demands to know about the humiliating public scandal linking him as Chuchen's secret lover. The old man screams at him to immediately abandon the embarrassing pharmaceutical venture and return home. Desperate and sweating, Sha Bei frantically tries to explain that the rumors are completely fabricated lies designed to sabotage them. But his grandfather refuses to listen, coldly ordering him to shut down the collaboration and get back to Yang City at once. Hanging up the phone, the uncle looks at Song Yan with a heavy, deeply apologetic sigh. He reveals that because of his father's strict, unyielding command, their highly anticipated collaboration has officially come to an abrupt, tragic end. Just as despair begins to take over the room, Chu Chen steps forward with a fierce, determined gaze. With blinding speed, he snatches the phone directly out of Sha Bei's hand, refusing to let their hard work be destroyed by a petty rumor. Pressing the phone to his ear, Chu Chen boldly greets the powerful old master Sha, casually introducing himself as Sha Bei's rumored lover. The sheer audacity of the greeting leaves both Sha Bei and Song Yan freezing in absolute breathless shock. Smiling calmly, Chu Chen mockingly asks the old master if his sudden panic is merely because he feels deeply embarrassed by the gossiping public. He confidently promises that he will make the old man incredibly proud by achieving the impossible. With an unwavering, intense gaze, Chu Chen declares that while other elite companies take years to enter the Zen City market, he will successfully launch their venture there in just 4 months. He challenges the old master to let them continue the collaboration if they pull off this miracle. On the other end of the line, the powerful patriarch's face twists into a furious, mocking scowl at the young man's unprecedented arrogance. He barks into the receiver, calling Chu Chen's bold claim nothing but shameless, delusional boasting. In the silent lounge, Xiao Bei and Song Yan stare at Chu Chen as if he has completely lost his mind, gasping at the impossible 4-month deadline. They realize that his reckless gamble has just pushed the high-stakes negotiations past the point of no return. Sitting in his grand office, old Master Shia scoffs at the young man's daring challenge, stating it has been decades since anyone has dared to talk so big to a giant like him. He prepares to lay down an ultimatum that will determine the absolute survival of their entire corporate future. Old Master Sha's voice roars through the line with a terrifying warning. If this bold gamble fails, he will personally unleash his absolute wrath on them all, leaving Xiao Bei and Song Yan freezing in pure terror. Unshaken by the old man's fury, Chu Chen slowly lowers his phone with a smug, victorious grin, knowing he has successfully backed the powerful patriarch into a corner. The tense silence is instantly shattered as Sha Bei erupts into ecstatic cheers, completely blown away by Chu Chen's unmatched boldness and standing up to his terrifying grandfather. But the heavy gravity of their situation quickly returns as the uncle anxiously reminds Chu Chen of the brutal, nearly impossible 4-month deadline they now face. Brimming with absolute certainty, Chu Chen steps forward to reassure them, declaring that as long as Baichen Pharmaceuticals stands united, they will easily conquer the Zen City market. Song Yan feels a strange, powerful wave of confidence wash over her as she watches Xiao Bei eagerly embrace Chu Chen, knowing deep down that she chose the right husband to fight by her side. Meanwhile, across town at the Grand City Hospital, a toxic plot of greed is unfolding as Song Qingpei and his family march down the sterile halls, clutching a bright bouquet. Blinded by their own ambition, Qingpeng's father boasts that securing this upcoming alliance will allow them to easily crush their rivals and seize the ultimate position of family head. Qingpeng sneers maliciously, his eyes gleaming with a dark pleasure as he eagerly anticipates the day they take control and put Chu Chen through a living hell. Wearing fake, sycophantic smiles, the corrupt trio bursts into the private hospital suite, ready to flatter the suffering heir and secure their lucrative deal. But instead of a warm welcome, they are met with a deafening roar of pure fury as Xiaolong's mother screams a terrifying order for them to drop to their knees. Blindsided and trembling, the 3 men crash violently onto the hard floor, their smug arrogance instantly shattering into pure panic. Lying in his hospital bed, Xiao Huang glares at them with murderous rage, demanding to know why they hid the ultimate cure for the snake venom while watching him rot. Cold sweat pours down Qingpeng's face as he stammers in sheer panic, completely unable to comprehend this sudden, terrifying accusation. Xiao Hong thrusts his phone forward, playing the undeniable video of Qingpeng being savagely bitten and miraculously recovering instantly. A lightning bolt of terror strikes the family as they realize Chu Chen recorded the entire incident, leaving them completely cornered with nowhere to run. Desperate to save their own skins, the father drops his head and confesses, pleading that they only wanted to use the poison to punish Chu Chen. Consumed by motherly rage, Xiao Hong's mother violently attacks them, refusing to let these parasites demand any business favors in exchange for her son's life. From his bed, Xiao Wang bellows his final, crushing decree, officially stripping all business ties from this treacherous family branch and handing the deal back to Song Yan's father. Kicked to the floor and utterly humiliated, the trio desperately scrambles to administer the cure, realizing their golden ticket to wealth has instantly turned to dust. Walking out of the hospital, Qingpeng grinds his teeth in a murderous rage, swearing to brutally destroy Chu Chen for orchestrating their ultimate downfall. But just as despair threatens to consume them, the father's phone rings, and his face suddenly twists into a manic grin of pure hope. He frantically reveals that his oldest son has secured a marriage alliance with the all-powerful Huang family of Zen City, a connection that far eclipses any losses from the Yi family. The trio explodes into maniacal laughter, confident that this massive new backer will allow them to crush their rivals and destroy Chu Chen once and for all. Meanwhile, panic spreads like wildfire through the main Song estate as rumors of the rival branch's new alliance with the mighty Huang family reach their ears. Song Yan's father is confronted by frantic relatives confirming that the rival branch is indeed boasting of their massive new connection. With the Sha collaboration dead and the rival branch climbing to untouchable heights, the family faces absolute crushing ruin. A dark historical grudge looms over them as they recall that the rival uncle blames Sheyong for his wife's tragic death, promising a merciless annihilation. The terrifying reality of their impending doom hits Sheyang like a physical blow, leaving him paralyzed with fear. But the suffocating tension is suddenly shattered as Chu Chen casually strolls into the room, wearing a calm, amused smirk. With shocking confidence, Chu Chen boldly declares that the partnerships with both the Sha and Ye families are actually coming back. Furious at his perceived madness, a relative points an aggressive finger, demanding how a notorious fool could know anything. Chu Chen's eyes gleam with playful mystery as he boasts that his secret sources of information are truly extraordinary. The relative's anger turns to anxious doubt as he recalls how Chu Chen miraculously solved the poison needle incident last time. Sensing their growing desperation, Chu Chen tells his father-in-law to watch closely, preparing to reveal his secret source. Chu Chen proudly holds up his phone, revealing a ridiculous cartoon character on screen, calling it the Magic Conch. The relatives stare in absolute brain-melting disbelief, shocked that Chu Chen is treating their survival like a children's game. Completely unfazed, Chu Chen smugly explains that this all-knowing conch is highly accurate and already shared on his social media. The relative roars in pure rage, accusing Chu Chen of being insolent and making a mockery of their family's desperate situation. Just as the shouting peaks, the double doors click open and Song Yan walks in, telling them to calm down. She drops an official corporate document onto the table, declaring that Chu Chen didn't say a single thing wrong. A thunderous wave of shock ripples through the room as the relatives stare at the undeniable paperwork. They gasp in absolute horror, reading that Old Master Sha has officially signed off on the multi-million-dollar collaboration. The uncle's jaw drops as he wonders how Old Master Sha could possibly ignore the massive public scandal. The relatives try to dismiss it as a lucky guess, insisting that bringing back the Ye family is still completely impossible. Suddenly, the relative's phone buzzes, his eyes widening in complete shock as a familiar voice speaks on the line. He drops the phone slightly, his face pale as he announces that young Master Ye has officially reinstated the partnership. The room erupts into chaotic disbelief, the relatives swarming Chu Chen in a desperate, frantic frenzy to know his secret. The once arrogant relatives completely discard their pride, begging Chu Chen to add them on WeChat to get access to his magic conch. As lucrative notifications flood Chu Chen's screen, the legendary useless son-in-law smirks, having turned a family crisis into a highly profitable triumph. The next morning, a fresh dawn breaks over the city, signaling a major turning point for the family as Chu Chen and Song Yan walk together, reflecting on the miraculous revival of their collaboration with the powerful Cha family. However, a new and formidable challenge immediately blocks their path, as Song Yan reveals that the Sha family demands their new operations be established within the prestigious Golden Beach building, causing a wave of immediate concern. The trouble runs incredibly deep, as the coveted Golden Beach building is owned by the ruthless Huang family, who will surely use their influence to block any attempt to move in once the rival branch seals their strategic marriage alliance. This obstacle is a fatal blow to their dreams, because the best opportunities and resources are locked within that building, meaning they have no choice but to break through the barrier if Chu Chen stands any chance of keeping his impossible 4-month promise. Touched by her unwavering dedication and deep worry, Chu Chen wraps his arms around his wife in a warm, comforting embrace, deeply grateful for how far she is willing to go for him. Looking down at her with total assurance, Chu Chen promises her that she can leave this impossible task entirely to him, confident he can find a way into the restricted building.
Wasting no time, Chu Chen pulls out his phone to call his brother-in-law to arrange an immediate trip, leaving Song-yeon deeply suspicious that he is about to start another chaotic brawl.
With a mysterious, playful smirk, Chu Chen quickly assures his worried wife that he has absolutely no intention of causing any trouble this time. Giving a cheeky thumbs up, he boldly claims to be nothing but a peaceful, law-abiding citizen, though his glittering eyes betray a much grander hidden agenda. As night falls over the city, the eerie, haunting echoes of weeping slice through the pitch-black darkness of a quiet courtyard. A heavy, metallic clang reverberates through the cold air as the grand double doors are swung wide open, casting long, menacing shadows into the dark interior. Walking into a spine-chilling corridor lined with skulls, the young brother-in-law trembles, frantically questioning Chu Chen's sanity for bringing them to such a terrifying place. Despite his knees knocking together in sheer terror, the brother-in-law tries to puff out his chest, insisting that as a personal bodyguard, there is absolutely no way he is backing down. But his bravado instantly vanishes as a grotesque, laughing, ghostly figure suddenly materializes right before his eyes with a terrifying hiss. Screaming at the top of his lungs, the petrified bodyguard leaps high into the air, making a comical, lightning-fast excuse about an online class before fleeing the scene entirely. Chu Chen watches him escape, letting out a heavy, amused sigh at his brother-in-law's absolute hilarious cowardice. Turning his attention back to the mysterious shop, Chu Chen calmly examines a red ink brush, calling out to the storekeeper to inquire about its price. From behind him, the terrifying ghost mask is suddenly pulled away to reveal a fierce young woman in a traditional dress, who coldly tells him that they are closed and demands he leave immediately. Stepping forward with absolute elegance, her striking presence matches the ancient and mysterious aura of the traditional shop. Unfazed by her hostility, Chu Chen smiles warmly, gesturing toward the paper in her hands and asking if she is currently studying the ancient talisman. The girl's eyes widen in sheer disbelief as she demands to know how a random stranger could possibly recognize an elite symbol from the secret stellar sect. With an insufferable smirk, Chu Chen boastfully claims that he is intimately familiar with her sect, declaring himself to be none other than her grand senior through his connection to their legendary master. Infuriated by his casual disrespect, the young woman grits her teeth, forming a rapid spiritual hand sign as pure anger takes over. Unleashing a sudden aggressive strike, she roars in fury, refusing to let any arrogant outsider insult the sacred honor of her revered sect leader. Her lightning-fast palm thrusts directly toward him, but Chu Chen's expression remains incredibly calm, his eyes tracking her speed effortlessly. Throwing her entire weight into the attack, she fiercely warns him that if he does not immediately apologize to her master, he will never leave this room alive. Air pressure spikes as the attack closes in, forcing Chu Chen to brace himself against the sudden onslaught of spiritual energy. In a flash of blinding speed, a sharp smack rings out as Chu Chen effortlessly intercepts her wrist, completely neutralizing her powerful attack in an instant. But as the wind pressure settles, Chu Chen gasps in sudden horror, not because of the fight, but because her strike has torn his expensive designer suit, leaving him panicking over how he will ever explain this to his wife. Meanwhile, the young woman freezes in absolute shock, her eyes wide as she realizes his overwhelming physical strength has completely pinned her in place, leaving her entirely unable to move. Completely ignoring her stunned state, Chu Chen continues to lament over his damaged clothes, muttering that if he hadn't promised his junior brother to protect Stellar Sect members, he would make her pay dearly for this. Grabbing a nearby brush, Chu Chen casually writes a series of numbers onto the ancient talisman, smugly telling her that he is leaving his contact information behind. He turns his back to her, casually tossing the brush aside and telling the helpless girl to call her grand senior if she ever finds herself in real trouble. With a playful flick, Chu Chen slaps the paper directly onto her forehead, bidding a cheeky, mocking farewell to the rude young shopkeeper. Swiping the red brush and cinnabar ink as compensation for his torn suit, Chu Chen strolls out of the shop, leaving a trail of absolute chaos behind him. As soon as his presence fades, the invisible bind finally breaks, allowing the young woman to gasp for air as she regains control of her frozen body. Trembling with lingering anger, she snatches the talisman off her face, preparing to curse his name for meddling with her sacred studies. But as her eyes lock onto the ink marks, she freezes, a sudden jolt of sheer realization striking her soul.
Her jaw drops in absolute brain-melting shock as she realizes the numbers he scribbled have perfectly resolved the incredibly complex spiritual code she had been struggling to crack for months. Forgetting all her anger, she sprints through the back of the estate, frantically screaming for her grandfather to share this unbelievable breakthrough.
Outside, her grandfather steps out to meet her, completely stunned as she details the miracle, while Chu-Chen walks away in the distance, idly twirling his newly acquired brush. Laughing warmly at her frantic excitement, the grandfather pathetically pats her head, reminding her that the most extraordinary mystical arts in the world originate from the legendary 9 mysteries. He explains that the legendary 9 Profound Sect is a sacred, untouchable realm of power that completely transcends all other martial arts sects in existence. Within that ancient sacred place lie 9 ultimate world-shaking arts, supreme techniques so incredibly difficult that countless masters spend their entire lives failing to master even a single one. The grandfather reveals that in nearly 50 long years, fewer than 5 disciples from their entire stellar sect have ever possessed the legendary talent required to enter those sacred gates. The girl's heart beats wildly against her chest as she clutches the paper, suddenly wondering if the mysterious young stranger who solved the code in a single glance could actually be a master from that legendary sect. Her grandfather's eyes bulge out in absolute shock as he demands to know why she didn't keep such a legendary figure around, forcing her to admit with a nervous sweat that she kicked him out for claiming their leader was his junior. Pushing her embarrassment aside, she raises her fist with fierce determination, swearing that she will train harder than ever to one day surpass the arrogant young senior. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of the city's elite district, a massive luxury skyscraper glows brightly against the starry night sky. Inside the grand banquet hall, Song Qinglong raises a glass of fine wine and a triumphant toast, loudly boasting to the gathered elite that their family's spectacular new alliance is finally complete. Inside the luxurious dining room, Master Huang Qide dismisses all formality, raising a glass of wine to welcome Song Qinglong into his inner circle. His laughter is warm, but the underlying business stakes of this union are incredibly high, binding 2 major family dynasties together in an unbreakable alliance. Tears of dramatic joy overflow as his hulking daughter, Huang Shushu, throws herself into her father's arms, deeply touched by his blessing. The sheer size and power of the heiress contrasts sharply with the delicate romance usually found in high society, setting the stage for a bizarrely intense courtship. Stepping forward with theatrical passion, Qinglong takes her hand, showering her with grand declarations of love at first sight. He plays his role to absolute perfection, masking his true intentions behind a wall of honeyed words and rehearsed devotion. With dramatic tears streaming down his face, he vows to cherish her forever, sending Shushu into such a romantic frenzy that she effortlessly scoops him up in her massive arms. But while the lovers celebrate their mock fairy tale romance, the true architects of this union are preparing to extract their prize. Seated around the feast, the scheming elders raise their glasses in a heavy toast to seal the marriage deal once and for all. With the alliance officially locked in, the true, ruthless agenda behind this union is finally ready to be unleashed. Seizing the moment, Qinglong's father assumes a mask of profound sorrow, letting out a heavy sigh as he laments the family's sudden stroke of bad luck. He is laying down his bait, hoping the powerful Huang family will swallow his sob story hook, line, and sinker. Master Huang, fully believing they are already family, eagerly waves his hand and demands that they share their troubles without holding back. The trap is perfectly set, and the desperate Song branch is ready to spring it. Dropping his gaze, the father reveals that his brother, Song Xiang, has been relentlessly scheming to ruin him in a desperate bid to seize the position of family head. His voice is laced with venom, painting his sibling as a ruthless, power-hungry monster. He continues his performance, claiming his brother not only stole their rightful business collaborations, but went out of his way to target his helpless sons. He squeezes out a tear, playing the victim with terrifying precision to manipulate the powerful patriarch. Master Huang's expression instantly hardens into pure rage, his booming voice demanding to know if his prospective son-in-law was truly subjected to such humiliating abuse. The sheer insult to his daughter's fiancé has ignited a dangerous spark in the ruthless family leader. The scheming father eagerly fans the flames, explaining how Qinglong was forced to surrender all his lucrative business plans in the Golden Beach building because Xiang's daughter demanded he back off. He paints his son as a quiet, gentle soul who is simply too weak to fight back against such ruthless greed. A heavy fist slams onto the dining table, rattling the fine china as Master Huang explodes in a towering fury. The sheer disrespect of anyone targeting his future son-in-law is an unforgivable offense that he refuses to let stand. Glaring with murderous intensity, the ruthless patriarch roars that the Golden Beach building is his personal domain, swearing that as long as he draws breath, the rival branch will never set foot inside its prestigious walls. With one furious decree, the crucial location Chu Chen needs to win his promise is locked away under heavy guard. The scheming relative raises his glass with a triumphant grin, thanking the master for his protection while silently celebrating the perfect success of his manipulation. The rival branch is utterly trapped, but they have no idea that their entire scheme has been watched from the shadows. Through the massive glass windows of the skyscraper, a cold toast echoes into the night as the elites celebrate their successful conspiracy. But just outside the high-rise, a silent observer waits, ready to shatter their absolute confidence. Standing on the balcony just feet away, Chu Chen smiles with absolute disdain, having overheard every single word of their pathetic, manipulative plot. The crafty old foxes believe they have won, but they have just picked a fight with the absolute wrong opponent. With a dangerous, quiet smirk, Chu Chen twirls his newly acquired red brush, preparing to teach these arrogant conspirators a lesson they will never forget. They wanted to use underhanded tactics to destroy his wife's business, so he will use the ultimate mystical art to destroy them from within. Channeling his spiritual energy, Chu Chen rapidly paints an intricate crimson sigil directly onto his palm, his eyes gleaming with mischievous power. The air around him crackles with ancient mysticism as he prepares to unleash a forbidden spell. Inside the banquet hall, a sudden, inexplicable gust of wind sweeps through the room, causing Qinglong to freeze in absolute bewilderment as a strange pressure settles over his mind. The invisible spiritual strike has hit its target with terrifying precision. The mysterious energy surges through his veins as Chu Chen activates the legendary 9 Profound Illusionary Spirit Art, a supreme technique capable of tearing down a person's mental defenses and forcing them to act on their absolute deepest subconscious thoughts. Under the heavy influence of the spell, Qinglong's face turns a sickly shade of blue as he trembles, his eyes glazing over with a sudden, uncontrollable urge to speak without a filter. Shushu watches him in confusion, expecting a grand romantic proposal but sensing something is deeply wrong. A sudden, powerful burst of spiritual red light washes over them, completely overriding Qinglong's rational mind and forcing his true, buried feelings to drag themselves to the surface. Without warning, Qinglong snaps, violently splashing his glass of red wine directly into Shushu's face while screaming at her to show him some respect. The sudden, brutal outburst sends a shockwave of absolute horror through the silent room. As his shocked father demands to know what he is doing, Qinglong sneers with a terrifying, unhinged grin, declaring that he is finally done with the lies and is only going to speak the absolute truth. Stepping dangerously close, he pours more wine onto her head, brutally mocking her appearance and shouting that if his father didn't crave her family's massive wealth, he would never stoop so low as to associate with a monster like her. Shushu stands frozen, the harsh, devastating words cutting deeper than any physical blade as she stares at her fiancé in absolute heartbreaking disbelief. The man who had promised to love her forever has just shattered her soul in a single instant. Master Huang roars in a towering fury, slamming his hands down as he demands an explanation for this unforgivable, suicidal disrespect. But the spell's hold on Qinglong is absolute, and his self-destructive rampage is only just beginning. Turning his glazed eyes toward the powerful patriarch, Qinglong sneers with a mock salute, laughing that he hasn't even begun to tell them what he truly thinks of their pathetic family. He unleashes a barrage of venomous insults, questioning how anyone could raise such a bizarre daughter, loudly wondering if her childhood formula was mixed with muscle powder. The sheer audacity of his words leaves the entire room suffocating in absolute shock. Master Huang clutches his chest in sheer, overwhelming rage, his face contorting in agony as he struggles to breathe under the weight of the humiliating insult. But Qinglong remains completely unfazed, smugly daring the powerful old man to take a swing at him. A devastating, bone-shattering punch collides directly with Qinglong's jaw, sending him flying backward with a wet spray of crimson blood. Shushu's heartbreak has instantly transformed into a towering primal rage. With a series of deafening, earth-shaking thuds, she pummels him relentlessly against the floor, pouring all her betrayal and fury into every single brutal strike. The banquet hall has transformed into a one-sided slaughterhouse. Grabbing him by his collar like a rag doll, she hoists his broken, bloody body into the air, screaming that their engagement is officially over and branding him a worthless scumbag. The grand alliance that was meant to destroy Chu Chen has been completely demolished in a matter of seconds. Walking away with her head held high, Shushu demands that her father leave immediately, while Master Huang spits on the beaten man, warning him that he should count himself lucky he survived his daughter's wrath. The remaining relatives stand in paralyzed, sweating horror, staring at the ruined body of their golden boy as the catastrophic reality of their failed scheme sinks in.
Desperate and confused, the younger brother rushes to his side, shaking him frantically and demanding to know how he could possibly lose his mind and ruin everything in front of their most important allies. Suddenly, the elder brother's eyes widen as he inspects the surrounding air, detecting the faint residual traces of a powerful spiritual technique that was recently released in the room. He gasps in horror, realizing that his brother was under someone else's complete control. A cold dread washes over the room as they realize the rival branch employs a powerful Taoist priest, immediately jumping to the conclusion that this sabotage must be the work of their uncle's legendary ally. But their confusion instantly turns back to panic as the father demands to know how the rival branch could have possibly discovered their secret meeting place to launch such a precise strike. Trembling in absolute terror, the younger brother raises his hand with a nervous sweat, sheepishly admitting that he might have loudly bragged about their prestigious engagement to a group of complete strangers earlier that day.
A brutal, lightning-fast smack rings through the air, colliding directly with his face as his father's patience completely snaps. Roaring in pure fury, the father punches him to the ground, cursing his absolute stupidity for exposing their plans and leaving them completely vulnerable to their rivals. Gritting his teeth with murderous resolve, the defeated father swears that they will find a way to wipe their rivals off the map, unaware that the true mastermind behind their downfall is already walking away. Outside the building, Chu Chen strolls down the street, laughing warmly to himself as he reflects on how easily the truth can tear a corrupt alliance to pieces. His plan worked flawlessly, but his peaceful walk is suddenly interrupted by a chaotic commotion. A loud metallic crash echoes nearby, forcing Chu Chen to pause as he spots a bizarre figure causing absolute mayhem on the quiet city street. Chu Chen raises an eyebrow in mild amusement, wondering what kind of eccentric character has decided to pick a fight with a heavy steel power box in the middle of the night. Before him, a massive, bald martial artist in a traditional gi throws a devastating punch directly into the metal box, screaming in sheer frustration about his inability to navigate the complex city. Stepping forward, Chu Chen casually points out that trashing public property isn't exactly a great way to solve a navigation problem, his voice dripping with playful sarcasm. The giant turns with a ferocious glare, loudly boasting that he came to Zen City to find a legendary master and kick some serious butt, but his useless phone navigation has left him completely lost. Chu Chen smiles, calmly suggesting that he simply call a cab to get to his destination, only for the hulking warrior to suddenly look incredibly embarrassed as he mutters that he suffers from severe motion sickness, even on a simple bicycle. Chu Chen immediately spots an opportunity to turn this chaotic meeting to his advantage. Extending his phone to exchange contact info, he casually offers to guide this powerhouse of a man to a perfect training gym, his eyes gleaming with hidden calculation. Thrilled by the sudden kindness of a stranger, the hulking martial artist eagerly scans the code, completely unaware of who he is dealing with as he proudly introduces himself as Dong Rong, a name that instantly rings a dangerous bell in Chu Chen's mind. Chu Chen's mind flashes back to the pathetic gang that tried to ambush him at a bar entrance under a very similar name. A cold, knowing smirk plays on his lips as he realizes this simple-minded giant is connected to the very trash he just swept away, opening the door for an even larger scheme. By the next morning, the explosive collapse of the rival family's grand alliance has cleared the board. Song Yan stands before a towering skyscraper, still in utter shock that Chu Chen's prediction about her second uncle's broken engagement has actually come true. Stepping out of her car, she eyes Chu Chen with deep suspicion, demanding to know if he had anything to do with this miraculous downfall. He merely chuckles, casually brushing off the accusation while keeping his divine magical intervention a perfect secret. Although she struggles to comprehend the sheer luck of it all, a deep sense of relief washes over her. The looming threat that almost choked her business has vanished, leaving them with an open path to conquer the city's market. With the rival branch's interference completely crushed, the prestigious Golden Beach building is finally within their grasp. Today, they will step inside its luxurious halls and secure the perfect headquarters for their new company, completely unaware of the trap waiting for them inside. But their triumphant entry is immediately met with a cold, insulting reception. Left waiting for 2 hours without a single salesman in sight, Chuchen's patience snaps as he aggressively slams his foot onto the service bell, the loud metallic ring echoing like a declaration of war. A sharp clatter of a teacup signals the belated, arrogant arrival of the floor manager, who offers a thoroughly insincere apology while stirring his drink with pure condescension. Adjusting his glasses, Manager Huang introduces himself as the head of sales, his arrogant gaze scanning the couple as he mockingly inquires if they are actually expecting to secure the prestigious 21st floor. Choosing to rise above the blatant disrespect, Song Yan remains thoroughly professional, calmly inquiring about the rental price to see if they can finalize the deal. Manager Huang scoffs in her face, rudely declaring that they shouldn't even bother asking because they clearly can't afford it, smugly adding that even if they did buy it, they wouldn't survive a single week. He sneers as he reveals the lethal corporate trap they are walking into. The floor directly above belongs to the powerful Yi family, while the floor below is occupied by Chan Pharmaceuticals, their most ruthless direct competitor. Leaning back with absolute disdain, the manager warns them that signing for this specific floor means being surrounded by predatory enemies on all sides, a suicidal business move that will guarantee their absolute bankruptcy. A cold dread washes over Song Yan as she quietly turns to Chuchen, asking about the true power of Qian Pharmaceuticals, only for Chuchen's eyes to narrow as he prepares to explain the layout of their city's elite. Once, the power of Zen City was divided among 5 grand dynasties, including the fading Song family. But now, while the ruthless Huang family dominates, the sheer influence of the wealthy Qian clan remains a lethal threat to anyone trying to rise. Undeterred by the massive threat, Song Yan firmly insists that they are ready to persist and take the risk. Chuchen watches her with pride, while silently noting how heavily this pathetic manager looks down on their struggling family. Before their negotiation can proceed, a loud, mocking voice cuts through the room from the entrance, signaling the arrival of a dangerous new player who has just walked into the trap. The intruder is none other than Qian Bushao, the arrogant young master of Qian Pharmaceuticals himself, wearing a smug grin that practically screams trouble. Manager Huang instantly leaps to his feet, bowing like a loyal dog as he eagerly invites the wealthy heir to take a seat, practically begging him to share his superior wisdom. Qian Bushao slumps back into the sofa with a mocking smirk, demanding to know if Song Yan is relying on the secret protection of the powerful Yi Xiao Huang to survive in this building. The sudden, offensive insinuation catches Song Yan completely off guard, her face flushing with anger as she demands to know what kind of baseless nonsense he is trying to suggest. Leaning in close, Qian Bushao wags his finger, threateningly declaring that if she is indeed under Ye's wing, he might show some mercy, but if she isn't, he will personally crush her business without hesitation. Song Yan stands her ground, proudly stating that she has absolutely no connection to Ye Xiaohuang before introducing Chuchen as her rightful husband. The revelation sends Chan Bushao and Manager Huang into a fit of mocking laughter, brutally jeering that a married woman secretly playing around with another elite young master must make for a highly thrilling affair. The vile insult is the final straw. A deadly silence fills the room as Chuchen takes a single, heavy step forward, his eyes burning with absolute murderous intent. A thunderous slap cracks through the room as Chuchen's palm collides violently with Qian Bushao's face, sending a spray of spit and blood flying as the arrogant heir's head whips back in sheer agony. Standing tall like an unstoppable god of wrath, Chuchen cold-bloodedly looks down at the dazed heir, reminding him that they came here to buy a business location, not to listen to a brainless idiot spew irrelevant garbage. Song Yan gasps in absolute shock, her eyes wide with terror as she witnesses her husband physically assault one of the most powerful and dangerous young masters in all of Zen City. Beside them, Manager Huang screams in pure, unadulterated horror, clutching his head as he realizes the catastrophic consequences of a wealthy heir being brutally assaulted right inside his sales office. Trembling on the floor, Qian Bushao clutches his heavily swollen, bleeding cheek, his eyes filled with a murderous rage as he curses Chu Chen, completely stunned that anyone would dare to lay a hand on him. Hauling himself up, the humiliated heir roars in a towering fury, screaming that anyone wishing to survive in the pharmaceutical industry must kneel down and crawl before him, vowing to squash them both like worthless ants. Lashing out, Qian Bushao grabs Chu Chen by the collar, his face twisted in a demonic snarl as he threatens to destroy Song Yan and ensure the entire Shao family's hard work goes down in flames if Chu Chen doesn't keep hitting him. Chu Chen's expression remains dead silent, a terrifyingly calm smile playing on his lips as he softly agrees to fulfill the young master's foolish, self-destructive request. With a devastating lightning-fast motion, Chu Chen lifts his leg, preparing to deliver a strike that will permanently silence this arrogant bully. He cold-bloodedly whispers that in all his years of cultivation, he has never encountered anyone foolish enough to demand a beating. With a bone-shattering force, Chu Chen's foot collides directly with Qian Bushao's chest, delivering a strike so powerful it threatens to break his ribs. The immense force of the kick sends Qian Bushao flying backward through the air like a broken ragdoll, his body crashing violently against the floor in a cloud of dust and agonizing pain. Writhing on the ground, his face battered and bloodied, the ruined heir shrieks at the top of his lungs, desperately commanding Manager Wang to call every single security guard to beat Chu Chen to a bloody pulp. Within seconds, the heavy doors burst open as a squad of heavily armed security guards rushes into the office, wielding thick batons and surrounding Chu Chen with aggressive intent. Terrified for her husband's life, Song Yan bravely throws herself in front of the guards, spreading her arms to block them while desperately demanding they call the police, instead of resorting to brutal violence. But Chu Chen gently pulls her back, his voice incredibly calm and reassuring as he reveals that he has already sent a message to Sha Bei, ensuring that help is already on the way. Hearing his calm confidence, Qian Bushao spits blood and laughs maniacally, mocking Chu Chen as a delusional fool who truly believes the powerful Huang Yuhai will lift a single finger to save him today. The guards immediately surge forward on Qian's command, forcefully pinning Chu Chen's arms behind his back as they drag him away, while Song Yan is ruthlessly held back. Even as his arms are pinned, Chu Chen remains completely unfazed, looking back at his panicked wife with a reassuring smile and telling her to let them hold him because they will be begging for his forgiveness in a moment. Qian Bushao sneers at his unyielding confidence, mocking him as a brainless daydreamer who doesn't realize he is about to be sent to his grave. Just as the guards prepare to unleash their physical torment on the restrained Chu Chen, a loud, sharp ringtone shatters the violent tension, forcing the arrogant manager to pause as his phone vibrates in his pocket. Annoyed by the sudden interruption, Manager Huang furiously whips out his phone, barking into the receiver as he demands to know what idiot is daring to call him at such a crucial moment. But the voice on the other end is cold, heavy, and dripping with an absolute terrifying authority that instantly freezes the blood in the manager's veins, demandingly asking exactly who he thinks he is calling an idiot. As Chu Chen remains held by the security guards, Qian Bushao sneers triumphantly, mocking that the Song family's grand dream of entering the Golden Beach building has just been permanently slaughtered by Chu Chen's own reckless hands, completely unaware that the tables are about to turn in the most devastating way possible. Fueled by a toxic mixture of humiliation and desperate rage, Qian Bushao clutches a heavy, jagged brick, his eyes wild with a manic bloodlust, as he prepares to permanently ruin the man who dared to defy him. Screaming a demonic curse, the unhinged heir swings the weapon downward with lethal force, aiming straight for Chu Chen's skull with every intent of crushing his future. Song Yan cries out in absolute terror, her voice cracking as she helplessly watches the deadly blow descend, certain that this moment will end in an unspeakable tragedy. But before the weapon can connect, a blinding blur of movement shatters the air as Manager Wang surges forward, delivering a brutal, thunderous punch directly to Qian Bushao's jaw. The sheer force of the manager's desperate intervention sends the arrogant heir spiraling backward through the air, crashing mercilessly into a row of spiked decorative cactuses. A pathetic, blood-curdling shriek of pure agony echoes through the office as Qian Bushao clutches his heavily punctured, bleeding face, completely shattered by the sudden betrayal. Trembling with a sudden, suffocating panic, Manager Huang instantly drops his proud demeanor, bowing frantically to Chu Chen as he begs for forgiveness, terrified of the invisible forces pulling the strings.
Confused by the abrupt shift, but sensing the escalating danger, Song Yan desperately grabs Chu Chen's arm, pulling him toward the exit to escape before this corporate war turns deadly.
But manager Huang rushes ahead to block their path, his voice cracking with desperation as he begs them to stay, offering a massive, unprecedented discount just to keep Chu Chen happy. From the floor, a bloody Chan Bushao roars in sheer disbelief, demanding to know why the manager is sucking up to a worthless nobody, only for Huang to reveal that the powerful Huang Yuhai himself has ordered absolute protection for Chu Chen. A cold, knowing smirk plays on Chu Chen's lips as he realizes the sheer weight of his mystical reputation, knowing the elite families now fear his divine power more than death itself. Seizing the sudden power shift, the trembling manager eagerly prepares the lease for the prestigious 21st floor, leaving the battered Qian Bushao to stew in his own powerless fury. But as they prepare to finalize the deal, Qian Bushao gasps for air on the floor, spit hissing a venomous vow that while they might be safe inside this building, the moment they step outside, a brutal death awaits them. Wasting no time, the humiliated heir frantically dials his phone, calling upon Rong Dong, the ruthless owner of the infamous Rong Yao boxing gym, to unleash a wave of physical devastation. Chu Chen merely glances at his own device, a calm, mocking smile spreading across his face as he softly warns the heir that his brute force backup is already completely out of commission. Oblivious to the trap, Chan Bushao barks frantic orders into his receiver, desperately demanding his partner bring an army to crush his enemies once and for all. But the voice on the other end of the line doesn't bring a promise of violence. It is a terrified, broken whimper pleading for Chen Bushao to save him instead. With a smug chuckle, Chu Chen holds up a live video broadcast showing the legendary boxing gym currently being utterly demolished by a mysterious challenger in real time. On the screen, the supposedly invincible Rong Dong lies face down, completely knocked unconscious in a pool of absolute defeat, while the online crowd roars in chaotic excitement. The color completely drains from Qian Bushao's face as his entire network of muscle crumbles into dust in a matter of seconds, leaving him utterly defenseless. Leaning in with terrifying calm, Chu Chen looks down at the broken young master, ready to reveal the architect behind this synchronized devastation. A quick glance at Chu Chen's phone reveals a casual text conversation with his powerful ally, who casually brags about smashing the gym as if it were a simple daily chore. Chu Chen smiles warmly, proud of his ally's absolute dominance, while Qian Bushao realizes with a crushing dread that he has provoked a literal god of war. With their enemies utterly dismantled and the prestigious headquarters officially secured, the shadows of the city begin to lengthen as a new, high-stakes family drama begins to unfold. Later that evening, the imposing, luxurious gates of the Grand Song family estate glow under the moonlight, hosting a gathering that will test the couple's resolve. Stepping inside, a deeply perplexed Song Yan looks at her husband, demanding to know how he magically turns every single life-threatening crisis into a triumphant victory. Chu Chen merely chuckles, playfully claiming that his luck is simply a reward for his legendary well-behaved nature, earning a heavy, exasperated sigh from his wife. Song Yan rolls her eyes in fond disbelief, warning him that their peace is highly temporary, as they are about to face the ultimate den of vipers, the official family banquet. Inside the lavish dining hall, the atmosphere is thick with corporate ambition as the conversation turns to the highly anticipated Golden Beach Festival's traditional lion dance. Song Chu sits with a heavy heart, his shoulders slumped as he admits his training has been a disaster compared to the elite veterans of the rival dynasties. Instantly, the arrogant relatives sneer in disdain, mockingly telling him not to bother trying for victory and to simply focus on not humiliating the family by coming in dead last. Annoyed by their defeatist attitude, Chu Chen boldly raises his voice, confidently declaring to the entire room that Song Chu is guaranteed to take first place. The room erupts into a chorus of mocking, arrogant laughter, with the relatives viciously jeering that only a brainless outsider like Chu Chen would spout such delusional garbage. Undeterred by their insults, Chu Chen casually leans back, smugly revealing that he has put his money where his mouth is by betting his entire fortune on Chiu's victory. To the absolute horror of everyone present, Chu Shen flips his phone to display an official betting receipt, showing a staggering, jaw-dropping wager of 1 million yuan. The luxurious hall falls into a suffocating dead silence as the snobbish relatives stare at the screen in pure, unadulterated shock, unable to comprehend the sheer scale of the bet. Pale with panic, Song Yan pulls Chu Chen aside, frantically demanding to know where a supposedly penniless husband managed to acquire such an astronomical fortune. Recovering from their shock, the petty relatives burst into a mocking frenzy, jeering that throwing 1,000,000 yuan on Song Cho is as foolish as betting a helpless baby could outrun a racing stallion. They smugly boast about the unstoppable dominance of the powerful Huang family, who have ruthlessly claimed the Lion King championship for several consecutive years. Even Song Chao looks at Chu Chen with deep guilt, begging his brother-in-law not to throw his wealth away, but Chu Chen merely winks, pointing out that at 20-to-1 odds, they're about to make 20 million. The snide relatives laugh in his face, mocking his supreme confidence as nothing more than a delusional fairy tale, completely blind to the storm that is brewing. A sharp, commanding cough cuts through the mockery as the heavy double doors swing open, signaling the grand arrival of the family patriarch to officially begin the high-stakes banquet. With absolute authority, the old master takes his seat, wastes no time demanding that the rival uncles, Shay Yang and Mu Yang, report on their recent corporate conquests. Stepping forward with immense pride, Uncle Shaiyang boasts of his highly successful alliances with the powerful Yi and Rong families, his son gloating silently in the background. The spotlight shifts ruthlessly to Uncle Muyang, whose face instantly turns pale as cold sweat beads on his forehead, his arrogant posture completely crumbling. Under the patriarch's piercing gaze, Muyang is forced to choke out the humiliating truth. Their branch's business is currently facing an absolute catastrophic ruin. But the patriarch's response is a devastating blow to Muyang's faction, coldly confirming that regardless of their current failures, Shay Yang will remain the undisputed head of the family. A murderous, toxic rage boils within Mu Yang and his son, their eyes burning with a silent, demonic vow to violently reclaim their lost glory at any cost. Looking ahead to the future, the old master sternly demands that both brothers put aside their bitter hatred to secure a legendary victory at the upcoming Lion Dance Festival. But Uncle Shay Yang's expression darkens with deep worry, knowing the deep-seated blood feud between them means any attempt at cooperation will only end in disaster. With a sudden, greasy smile, Uncle Muyang steps forward, declaring that his own branch will do everything in its power to assist Song Q's lion dance. But beneath his warm words, a dark, sinister smirk from his sons hints at a trap designed to destroy the unsuspecting young heir. The sudden show of cooperation instantly triggers alarm bells as Uncle Shay Yang and his son whisper in hushed, suspicious tones. Why would a bitter, ruined rival suddenly offer to prop up their faction's hope unless there was a lethal knife hidden behind that smile? Hiding his deep suspicion, Shi Yang plays along, agreeing that if Mu Yang is willing to help, he has no objections. The patriarch, blind to the simmering malice, commands them to work together and secure a legendary victory for the family's honor. But Chu Chen isn't fooled for a single second, his sharp eyes narrowing as he studies the overly enthusiastic uncles. He knows that in a den of corporate vipers, a sudden offer of peace is usually the prelude to a devastating strike. Sensing the impending danger, Song Yan quickly pulls her brother Q aside, urgently warning him that second uncle's family is up to no good. She begs him to keep his guard up on the competitive field, but the naive young performer laughs it off as mere paranoia. Chu Chen's voice cuts through the boy's naivety like a freezing blade, warning Chu with absolute deadly seriousness to be careful or he will end up dead. The sheer, crushing weight of Chu Chen's warning sends a shiver of pure terror straight down Chu's spine. Unaware of Chu Chen's extreme vigilance, Uncle Muyang watches from the shadows, a wicked, triumphant grin stretching across his face. He whispers a silent vow of vengeance, eager to watch the arrogant couple burn in the fires of their own ruin. As night falls over the city, a tense silence wraps around the massive grand estate under a cold crescent moon. It is the quiet before a devastating storm, with the highly anticipated Golden Beach City Festival looming just hours away. Across town, inside his luxurious penthouse, the ruthless Huang Yuhai bursts into mocking laughter as his phone delivers hilarious news. He is absolutely ecstatic to learn that Chu Chen's allies have bet a massive fortune on the weak and useless Song Chu. With his face cast in terrifying shadow, Yu-hai reveals that he has already summoned a powerful master to crush Chu Chen once and for all. Not only will he expose Chu Chen as a fraud, but he will also ensure the young man leaves the city in a body bag. The next morning arrives with the roaring thunder of helicopter blades cutting through the clear sky over the massive arena. The grand opening ceremony of the Golden Beach City Festival has officially begun, drawing the entire region's elite into a high-stakes battlefield. Thousands of excited spectators flood through the towering gates of the festival, creating a chaotic sea of anticipation. Yet, hidden amidst the joyous celebration, rival factions are quietly positioning their forces for a brutal corporate war. Suddenly, dazzling fireworks explode across the sky in a brilliant display of color, signaling the official start of the legendary competition. But beneath the thunderous cheers of the crowd, the air is thick with a suffocating lethal tension. Stepping into the bustling arena, the Song family patriarch leads his family with pride, marveling at the unprecedented crowd. Little does the old master know, the family's honor is currently hanging by a thread over a pit of absolute betrayal. Eager to prove his loyalty, Uncle Muyang steps up to the patriarch, proudly introducing his second son, Song Qingying. He boasts that Qingying is a legendary lion dance maestro, specifically tasked with securing Chu's victory. Under the colorful lion mask, Qingying offers a polite, friendly smile that completely disarms the family. But behind those gentle eyes lies the calculating mind of a cold-blooded killer, ready to strike when the moment is right. The patriarch beams with pride, completely reassured by the display of family solidarity, while Xiu waves happily to his cousin. It seems the perfect alliance has been forged, but the shadows of doubt are already creeping closer. As Chu eagerly prepares his gear, Chu Chen stands quietly in the background, his razor-sharp gaze locked onto the supposedly helpful cousin. He can practically smell the stench of betrayal wafting off the young maestro. Chu Chen's jaw tightens as he prepares for the worst, knowing he cannot let his guard down for even a fraction of a second. If these vipers think they can slaughter his family on a public stage, they are about to learn a lesson in absolute terror. Meanwhile, the patriarch and the elder uncles take their places in the prestigious VIP viewing gallery, overlooking the massive water-filled arena. The stage is set for a historic clash, but the true battle is already brewing right in the spectator stands. Spotting his ally entering the stands, the energetic Xiaobei eagerly waves Chu Chen over to join him in the premium seating area. But as Chu Chen walks over, a group of smug rivals watches them with venomous disdain. A wealthy young master sneers mockingly, asking Xiaobei why on earth he would waste 1,000,000 yuan betting on a worthless loser like Song Qiu. He arrogantly demands that Xiaobei switch sides and throw his money behind their unbeatable champion instead. Xiaobei bursts into a loud, mocking laugh, bluntly firing back that he wouldn't even bet on his own second grandfather, let alone a bunch of arrogant clowns. The brutal insult hits the rivals like a physical slap, instantly shattering their smug composure. The wealthy heir's face twists into a mask of pure murderous rage as his companion gasps in disbelief at the blatant disrespect. They have never been so publicly humiliated, and the desire for blood instantly consumes them. Glaring with intense, venomous hatred, the rival leader vows that they will see who the true fool is when Xiaobei loses every single penny. He confidently predicts a humiliating defeat for the Song family, completely unaware of the trap Chu Chen has laid. Suddenly, a thunderous boom shakes the entire arena as heavy drumsticks strike the ceremonial drums with massive force. The crowd erupts into a frenzy as the opening act of the tournament officially begins. Standing before the roaring crowd, the Master of Ceremonies commands absolute silence, announcing the grand arrival of the city's most powerful figure. The arena holds its breath as the true ruler of the Golden Beach steps into the light. Accompanied by a massive squad of stone-faced bodyguards, Old Master Wang walks out onto the main stage, his presence radiating absolute authority. The crowd bows in deep respect, knowing his word is law in this city. With another explosive crash of the drums, the elite lion dance performers stamp their feet, sending shockwaves across the elevated platforms. The sheer athletic power on display is breathtaking, setting a terrifyingly high bar for the competitors. Suddenly, a massive golden lion head rises into the air with a blinding burst of speed and aggression. The crowd gasps as the terrifying beast seems to come alive, moving with superhuman agility. Underneath the golden beast is none other than Huang Shixiang, the legendary Lion King and Zen City's undisputed top champion. For years, he has crushed every challenger, and his icy veteran gaze promises absolute destruction to anyone who dares oppose him. Watching his powerful uncle dominate the stage, the smug rival heir grins evilly, knowing his victory is already written in stone. With a martial arts master on their side, he is guaranteed to make millions, leaving his enemies completely bankrupt. While the excited ladies in the crowd squeal in absolute awe of the grand spectacle, Chu Chen merely leans back with his hands behind his head, a bored, lazy smile on his face. To him, this legendary champion is nothing more than an amateur putting on a childish show. Chu Chen casually remarks that it's a shame he isn't participating, because if he were, the legendary Lion King would be forced to bow down as his mere underling. Sha Bei's jaw drops in shock, terrified that such a wild boast will draw the wrath of the entire arena. On the main stage, Old Master Huang raises his hand, announcing that while the lion dance is the main event, he is also seeking the author of the finest calligraphy of the day. He intends to personally meet this genius, completely unaware that Chu Chen is the true hand behind the masterpiece. Song Yan's face turns pale with sudden anxiety as she realizes the calligraphy was submitted under Sha Bei's name. If the old master discovers that Chu Chen is the actual author, a massive, explosive scandal could blow the entire festival apart. But before the panic can set in, Old Master Huang slams his heavy wooden cane down, booming that the auspicious time has arrived. With a voice of pure thunder, he declares that the Lion Dance Grand Competition has officially begun. Instant chaos erupts as the colorful lions leap forward, launching themselves onto the high, narrow wooden pillars suspended over the deep water. The sheer speed of the opening sprint leaves the spectators completely breathless. Navigating the dangerous pillars with surprising coordination, King Ying's lion yells for Chu to run ahead while they block the rival teams. Q gasps in gratitude, thrilled that his family is supporting him so selflessly. Up in the VIP stands, Uncle Shi Yang watches in shock, murmuring that they are actually helping his son. The patriarch nods in deep satisfaction, proudly stating that this is what true family solidarity is all about. But deep in the shadows, a demonic grin spreads across Uncle Muyang's face as he remembers his son's deadly secret. Qing Ying has secretly mastered a lethal, undetectable concealed weapon from his sect, and he is preparing to use it to ensure Chu never walks again. On the main field, the competition turns brutal as several massive lions are violently knocked off the high platforms, plunging into the churning water below with colossal splashes. The field of competitors is rapidly thinning out, leaving only the strongest standing. Suddenly, Q halts in absolute panic as he reaches the edge of the first tier, realizing the gap to the next elevated platform is far too wide to jump. One wrong step will send him crashing into the watery abyss, ending his dreams instantly. With the rival lions closing in from behind, Chi has no choice but to leap, throwing his entire body forward in a desperate, high-stakes gamble. The crowd gasps as the young heir flies through the air, completely gravity-defying. Spotting his cousin's struggle, Qing Ying aggressively thrusts his own lion head forward, screaming for Qiu to quickly step on them to gain the height he needs. It is an act of supreme sacrifice, or so it appears. Chao looks down in utter shock, unable to believe that his cousin would willingly act as a stepping stone and ruin his own chances of victory. What are they doing, he wonders, his mind reeling from the unexpected gesture. With sweat pouring down his face, Qing Ying fiercely urges Chu forward, claiming that he promised to help him and that Chu is the sole hope of the Song family. The raw emotion in his voice completely sweeps away any lingering doubt Chu had. Stealing his resolve, Q delivers a heavy, powerful stomp directly onto his cousin's outstretched shoulders, launching himself high into the sky. A loud thud echoes across the arena as the crucial leverage is achieved. With a perfect, graceful arc, Q's lion lands heavily on the high upper platform, securing a massive lead over the rest of the field. The crowd erupts into deafening cheers at the spectacular coordinated maneuver. Sprinting forward with renewed hope, Q silently thanks his brother Qing Ying, feeling a deep wave of guilt for ever doubting his family. But as he rushes toward the prize, he is completely oblivious to the lethal trap that has just been sprung directly beneath his feet. High above in the VIP gallery, the patriarch's hearty laughter echoes over the roaring crowd as he beams at the display of perfect family unity. To him, this flawless cooperation is proof of the Song family's unbreakable bond. But down below, Chuchen's analytical mind is already working at overtime speed, his sharp eyes narrowing as he detects a subtle change in the rhythm of the race. Suddenly, a brutal clash of colliding lions erupts on the high pillars with a series of deafening impacts, violently scattering the mid-tier competitors. Amidst the chaos, the legendary Lion King himself, Elder Huang, tilts his head back with a chilling, battle-hardened gaze that radiates absolute supremacy. Seeing the champion momentarily delayed by a cluster of rivals, an ambitious young dancer spots a golden opportunity to steal the lead and surge ahead. Up in the stands, a wave of stunned gasps sweeps through the massive crowd as everyone realizes the impossible. The underdog Song Q is actually leading the pack. While the patriarch boasts of his grandson's incredible brotherhood, a thrilled Xiao Bei frantically asks Chuchen if they are actually about to win a massive fortune. But their celebration is cut short as the Lion King erupts with terrifying power, blasting past the lesser competitors like a force of nature. Pushing his body to the absolute limit, Q sprints toward the sheer vertical climb of the final level, determined to secure a historic victory for his family. The towering platforms loom precariously over the dark, deep waters below, where one single slip means a devastating, bone-shattering fall. Suddenly, Qingying's yellow lion leaps ahead, screaming for Chu to keep moving while he supposedly holds off the unstoppable Lion King. With an intense, sweat-drenched face, Qingying commands his cousin to take the final leap, acting as the perfect, selfless guardian. Filled with overwhelming gratitude, Q launches himself high into the open air, completely unaware of the deadly snake coiled right beside him. In that split second of vulnerability, a demonic smirk spreads across Qingying's face as he silently fires a flurry of lethal, invisible ice needles directly at Qiu's exposed hand. Landing heavily on the high pillar, Q feels a sudden, sharp sting that vibrates violently through his entire arm. Horror consumes the young heir as his body completely freezes up, his muscles locking in a state of sudden, absolute paralysis. From the VIP stands, the patriarch and Song Yan scream in sheer panic as they watch Q suddenly lose his footing high above the abyss. Watching from the shadows, Uncle Muyang chuckles wickedly, knowing his son's lethal anesthetic will drag Chu down to a watery grave. With no control over his paralyzed limbs, Q plummets backward off the high pillar, falling helplessly toward the churning depths below. Song Yan leaps from her seat, her face pale with pure terror as her brother falls towards certain death. But before Q can hit the water, a blur of motion cuts through the arena as a figure tap-taps across the narrow pillars at superhuman speed. Charging directly into the danger zone, Chuchen moves like a gust of wind, defying gravity to reach the falling air. With a spectacular high-stakes dive, Chuchen snatches Chu out of midair, absorbing the massive impact of the fall. The water erupts behind them in a towering geyser as Chuchen carries his brother-in-law through the air with unmatched precision. Gliding through the sky with effortless grace, Chuchen secures the unconscious youth, shocking the entire stadium into a deafening silence. Landing perfectly on the lower platform, Chuchen stands tall, carrying the paralyzed Q over his shoulder like a true protector. A wave of absolute, paralyzing shock washes over the entire VIP viewing gallery, their eyes bulging at the impossible display. The stadium erupts into chaotic whispers as the spectators struggle to comprehend how the useless son-in-law of the Song family just performed a miracle. Laying Chu down safely, Chuchen turns his gaze up to the VIP gallery, loudly warning Old Master Huang that a hidden weapon was used in broad daylight. Infuriated by the blatant disrespect to his tournament, the elder of the Huang family roars in anger, demanding to know who dared to break the rules. A panicked guard quickly reports that the cameras did capture an injury on Q's hand, but they cannot identify the culprit. Qingying smiles triumphantly, knowing his melting ice needle has left absolutely no physical evidence behind to trace back to him. Down on the field, Chuchen softly explains to a confused Chu that someone intentionally poisoned him to knock him out of the race. Overhearing this, Q's heavy-headed partner inside the lion costume breaks out in a cold sweat of absolute terror. Terrified of losing his life in a corporate war, the partner throws his gear aside and flees the arena in a frantic panic. In the VIP stands, the uncles sigh in defeat, believing that with the partner gone, the Song family has no choice but to forfeit. But Chu Chen merely bends down, his hand wrapping firmly around the heavy, discarded lion head costume. Standing tall, Chu Chen calls out to the main gallery, boldly asking if he can take the runaway partner's place in the competition. Seeing the unfair circumstances of the attack, Old Master Huang nods solemnly, officially granting Chu Chen permission to enter the battlefield. Chu Chen hoists the massive lion head, casually admitting to a bewildered Q that he has only ever seen a lion dance on television. The rival young masters erupt into hysterical, mocking laughter, eagerly waiting for the useless son-in-law to make a total fool of himself. But a fiercely proud Chiyu shouts back at the mocking crowd, declaring that his brother-in-law is the ultimate hidden ace of the Song family. Outraged by the underdog's sudden confidence, the rival lion dancers stomp forward, vowing to crush the arrogant newcomer instantly. From his vantage point, a frustrated Qing Ying realizes Chu Chen is a threat and secretly plots to turn the entire arena against him. Suddenly, a massive wave of hostile lions charges directly at Chu Chen, surrounding him in a coordinated, brutal ambush. Under the mask, Chu Chen's eyes flare with an ancient, mystical blue light as he calmly prepares to unleash his true hidden power. With a series of explosive, lightning-fast strikes, Chu Chen sends the rival lions flying into the water below with colossal splashes. The spectator stands freeze in absolute disbelief, as everyone realizes this supposed amateur is moving with godlike martial arts mastery. The rival master's face twists in pure horror as he realizes the entire corporate war is about to be completely rewritten by one man's mystical arts. Trembling with rage, he desperately orders his remaining forces to form a massive alliance to take down Chu Chen at any cost. The battle resumes in a flurry of footsteps as Chu Chen and Q face a sudden, daunting wall of opposition. A group of specialized, menacing rivals blocks their path, prompting a tense confrontation high above the water. Without a shred of hesitation, Chu Chen unleashes a devastating kick, blasting through the defense of a charging rival with a thunderous impact that echoes across the stadium. To Chu Chen's slight surprise, the core group of elite competitors manages to narrowly slip past his offensive, revealing a level of coordination far superior to the previous rabble. High above the pillars, several formidable lion dancers execute a synchronized, gravity-defying maneuver, hovering over Chu Chen like vultures ready to strike. The elite dancers sneer with absolute contempt, confident that while the Song family's outcast might possess raw brute strength, he is completely outmatched by true masters of the craft. Beside him, Q warns that these are the most dangerous competitors on the field, but Chu Chen merely smiles, instantly seeing through their elaborate strategy to manipulate the entire match. Surrounding the duo from all sides, the elite lions coordinate their blockade, knowing that as long as they stall Chu Chen, the legendary Lion King will claim an easy victory at the peak. Panicking at the suffocating trap, Chu realizes that if they are held back here for even a moment, their hopes of winning the tournament will be completely snuffed out. With a calm, reassuring smile, Chu Chen commands Chu to hold on tight and prepare for a ride, hatching a wild, unpredictable plan that catches the young heir completely off guard. Lunging forward, Chu Chen mockingly asks his opponents if they truly believed his combat prowess was limited to close-quarters brawling. Chu's eyes widen in sheer terror as a massive surge of momentum pulls him forward, realizing Chu Chen is about to execute a move of sheer, terrifying scale. Using the lion costume's tail as a colossal whip, Chu Chen spins Chu in a massive, devastating arc, creating a human windmill that violently sweeps the entire blockade off their feet. The absolute destruction of the defense sends the rival lions plunging helplessly into the churning waters below, leaving the audience and competitors in absolute speechless shock. In the VIP stands, the crowd erupts into chaotic disbelief, with even their strongest detractors forced to admit that Chu Chen's display of power is nothing short of miraculous. While Q celebrates their incredible breakthrough, a hidden, venomous gaze watches them from the shadows, plotting a fatal strike while the spotlight is shining elsewhere. Seizing the moment of distraction, the treacherous Qing Ying leaps forward, a lethal, glowing projectile primed in his hand to end Chu Chen once and for all. The deadly weapon cuts through the air with a faint hiss, flying directly toward Chu Chen's exposed back in a silent, cowardly ambush. With superhuman reflexes, Chu Chen effortlessly snatches the invisible projectile out of midair and snaps it, sending the lethal backlash directly back to a horrified Qing Ying, who instantly screams in pain. Up in the gallery, the broadcast cameras zoom in on the sudden injury, prompting immediate accusations from the conspirators that Chu Chen was the one using hidden weapons. A wave of furious murmurs sweeps through the VIP box as the onlookers gasp at the sudden revelation of foul play, instantly threatening to derail the entire competition. Stepping forward, Uncle Muyang self-righteously demands that Old Master Huang disqualify Chu Chen immediately, eagerly sacrificing his family's reputation to frame the young martial artist. Infuriated by the blatant violation of his tournament's sacred rules, Old Master Huang roars in absolute fury, demanding his guards to apprehend Chu Chen at once. A squad of heavily armed security forces surges onto the field, moving in fast to arrest Chu Chen under the watchful eyes of the entire stadium. Q turns pale with panic, fearing his brother-in-law's victory is about to be stolen away, but Chu Chen remains completely unbothered, knowing the real culprit is about to expose himself. Meanwhile, Qing Ying begins to tremble violently as the massive double dosage of his own lethal tranquilizer begins to freeze his blood, threatening to paralyze him completely. Desperate to save his own life, Qing Ying frantically reaches into his pocket to retrieve the antidote, completely unaware of Chu Chen's watchful eyes. Just as his fingers wrap around the vial, a vice-like grip clamps down onto Qing Ying's wrist, sealing his fate in a single devastating instant. Forcing Qing Ying's arm high into the air for the entire stadium to see, Chu Chen loudly questions why the supposedly innocent victim is carrying the exact antidote to the poison. The broadcast screens flash with a crystal-clear close-up of the antidote packet in Qing Ying's hand, leaving no room for denial. The sudden, damning evidence sends shockwaves through the VIP gallery, leaving the entire Song family patriarchs frozen in utter disbelief as the truth is laid bare. Chu Chen calmly suggests that they review the high-speed surveillance cameras, revealing how the coward's own weapon bounced back to strike him down. Convinced by the undeniable proof, Old Master Huang's furious gaze shifts directly to Uncle Muyang, demanding a confession for his family's treacherous schemes. Cornered and exposed, Uncle Muyang stammers in sheer terror, his face draining of color as his grand conspiracy crumbles to dust before his eyes. The patriarchs of the Song family erupt in fury, denouncing Muyang's monstrous betrayal of his own flesh and blood, while Old Master Huang commands his guards to drag the conspirators away. Humiliated and disgraced, Muyang is violently escorted out of the arena, showered with garbage and the pure hatred of the disgusted spectators. Q is left reeling from the heartbreaking truth of his family's betrayal, but Chu Chen places a hand on his shoulder, promising that he will always have his back. With the internal drama resolved, Old Master Huang commands the tournament to resume, setting the stage for the final ultimate showdown on the central yin-yang platform. In the stands, the bitter rivals grow increasingly desperate, realizing that if Chu Chen wins, the entire fortune of the prize pool will fall directly into his hands. Standing at the center of the grand stage, the legendary Lion King, Elder Huang, peers out from under his mask, acknowledging the young challenger, but warning him that he will show no mercy. With a sudden, explosive burst of speed, the Lion King launches a devastating assault, his strikes finding every conceivable flaw in Chu Chen's defense. The sheer speed of the attack leaves the crowd gasping in awe, realizing the undisputed champion is operating on a level of martial arts mastery far beyond anything seen before. In the stands, Sha Bei and Yan watch in mounting dread as Chu Chen appears to falter under the overwhelming pressure of the Lion King's relentless offense. The Lion King delivers a brutal, heavy stomp directly toward Chu Chen's position, aiming to shatter his stance and end the battle in a single blow. A flurry of lightning-fast exchanges erupts on the high pillars as Chu Chen is forced onto the defensive, narrowly dodging a series of bone-crushing kicks. A thunderous collision shakes the very foundations of the arena, sending shockwaves through the water as the two titans clash in a desperate struggle for dominance. Watching from the gallery, the rival master smirks, convinced that Chu Chen's mystical arts are finally meeting their match against the true king of the arena. Towering over his opponent, Old Master Huang calls down from the VIP stands, suggesting that Chu Chen surrender gracefully instead of facing total humiliation. But on the lower platform, Chu Chen stands firm beneath his lion mask, his breath calm and steady despite the relentless battering he just endured. Peerless, mystical golden eyes flare to life beneath the fierce mask as Chu Chen smiles, asking his legendary opponent if he truly believed he was exhausted. High above, Old Master Huang's eyes widen in sheer, paralyzing shock as he feels an ancient, world-shaking power suddenly awaken within the young man below. The battle reached its absolute fever pitch as the heavy, ornate lion head tilted. Everything seemed to hang in perfect balance, with the rivals utterly convinced they held the ultimate physical advantage. But the legendary champion was gasping for air, his throat burning as the heavy weight of defeat pressed down on him, forcing him to confront the agonizing, unthinkable question of surrender. Throughout the spectator stands, faces twisted in utter, paralyzed shock as the incredible reality of the shift in power rippled through the massive arena. Desperation erupted among the rival faction as they screamed in confusion, unable to comprehend how their invincible champion had suddenly collapsed in defeat. On the lower platform, the fallen champion heaved for breath, desperately trying to explain that the onlookers were completely blind to what had actually transpired. They thought they were witness to a one-sided beatdown, viewing the rapid exchanges of blows as a testament to the champion's sheer dominance. Yet behind the ancient mask, Chu Chen's mystical eyes saw everything, revealing that throughout the entire lightning-fast exchange, not a single hostile strike had actually connected. The terrifying realization struck the champion like a physical blow. Chu Chen had deliberately faked weaknesses, leading his opponent into a calculated trap designed to completely drain his stamina. Peering out from beneath his massive lion mask, Chu Chen let out a calm, confident smirk, silently acknowledging that his grand strategy had worked to absolute perfection. With a sudden burst of explosive speed, Chu Chen propelled his partner forward, unleashing a decisive, shattering strike that sealed the fate of the entire battle. The final impact sent the last remaining rivals plunging helplessly into the churning waters below, their ambitions completely drowned in a colossal wave of defeat. The arena erupted in explosive cheers as the announcer celebrated the miracle victory, declaring the rise of a new champion against all conceivable odds. Among the elite, a heavy, suffocating silence fell as the realization set in that the legendary, undefeated champion had been thoroughly dethroned by a mere outcast. The conspirators could only watch in trembling horror as the security forces firmly escorted them out, their elaborate plots shattered into a million pieces. Up in the VIP box, the aging patriarch stood frozen, his eyes wide as he struggled to process the overwhelming reality of the victory. A single tear of pure, redemptive emotion rolled down his weathered cheek as the impossible truth washed over him. Against all odds, they had actually won. Down below, the crowd roared their names in a deafening chorus, hailing the two warriors who had just rewritten the destiny of their family. The chanting of the fans echoed through the massive rafters, validating their grueling struggles and cementing their names in martial arts history. Standing tall upon the high pillars, Chu Chen calmly suggested that it was time to claim their ultimate prize and inspect the sacred calligraphy hanging above. With effortless, gravity-defying grace, Chu Chen lunged upward, ascending toward the sky to retrieve the grand testament of victory. Slicing through the air, his hand clamped firmly onto the heavy scroll, tearing it free from its mountings in one swift, magnificent motion. Unfurling the massive banner for the entire stadium to see, the true majesty of the ancient script was revealed, radiating a power that left the onlookers breathless. A collective gasp of pure awe swept through the crowd as they marveled at the incredibly bold, elegant strokes of writing, recognizing it as the work of an absolute genius. The solemn host stepped forward, proudly announcing that this masterpiece was crafted by none other than Chu Chen himself, and offering to personally discuss the finer arts of calligraphy with him. Suddenly, a malicious voice pierced through the praise as a desperate rival pointed a trembling finger, loudly claiming that Chu Chen was a fraud who could never have written such a masterpiece. The bitter detractor stood defiantly in the spotlight, determined to bring down the newly crowned champion by any underhanded means necessary. With a venomous smirk, he directed everyone's attention to the very bottom of the scroll, mockingly calling out the utterly hideous signature. Zooming in on the signature, the glaring contrast was undeniable. The grand, majestic script of the text was accompanied by a childishly sloppy name. Whispers of doubt immediately spread like wildfire through the stands, with onlookers questioning how such divine writing could bear such a terrible mark.
The detractors sneered in triumph, confidently declaring that the useless son-in-law had exposed his own foolishness by signing a stolen work.
Sensing the trap, Chu Chen's allies watched in mounting dread, realizing the rival was using this bizarre anomaly to completely invalidate the victory. A cold sweat broke out among his closest supporters as they realized this calculated ambush was about to strip away everything they had just fought to win. The host turned his stern, piercing gaze back to Chu Chen, demanding to know the absolute truth regarding the ownership of the sacred characters. Staring directly into the eyes of the powerful elder, Chu Chen stood tall and unflinching, calmly reiterating that the masterpiece was entirely his own creation. With a relaxed shrug, Chu Chen maintained his unwavering composure, dismissing the petty accusations of the crowd with an effortless, confident smile. Infuriated by what he perceived as blatant arrogance and disrespect, the elder's face twisted in pure rage as he warned Chu Chen that he would face devastating consequences for lying. With a thunderous command, the elder ordered his elite guards to storm the arena and bring down the defiant young martial artist by force. In the VIP stands, the rivals erupted into malicious, mocking laughter, thoroughly enjoying the spectacle of Chu Chen's impending ruin. A squad of heavily armored guards closed in from all sides, cornering the young master on the high platform as Chu Chen merely sighed at the massive hassle. In a flash of blinding speed, Chu Chen launched himself into the air, easily evading the lunging guards with superhuman agility. Landing with absolute precision on the edge of the platform, he moved with a level of speed that made his opponents look as if they were standing still. With a sudden, violent strike, Chu Chen grabbed the massive red banner and ripped it apart, a shocking act of defiance that sent a clear message to his oppressors. The entire stadium froze in absolute paralyzed horror as the sacred symbol of the tournament was torn to pieces before their very eyes. The elder let out a furious, blood-curdling roar, unable to comprehend how anyone could possess the sheer audacity to commit such sacrilege. As chaos erupted throughout the arena, the wicked rivals smiled in gleeful anticipation, eagerly waiting to see how Chu Chen would survive the absolute wrath of the entire martial world.